scrape that stupid smile across your face. It's comedy time, and the gang's all here.
Paul's in Chelsea. Paul, what are you going to put on my list?
Hello, James. Please go easy with me, mate. I would ask Sajid Javid to bring back the death penalty.
What, in the budget?
No, on this list of European rules.
Yeah. I mean, it is a budgetary requirement, but I suppose given that the bats and the washing machines and the working time directive hasn't gone very well, you want to bring back the death penalty?
Personally, yeah. Because correct me if I'm wrong, James, your knowledge is probably far superior to mine on this, but I'm sure it's the Europeans that don't allow us to hang people.
When did we abolish it?
I think it was called, wasn't it under Tony Blair's government? The last working gallows got taken out.
The death penalty was abolished under Tony Blair's government.
No.
Well, no, that's not what I asked. When did we abolish the death penalty?
In the 60s.
And when did we join the European Union?
73.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a very different world, James. We didn't have the same level of terrorism as we do today. Vile crimes.
I know, it's the suicide bombers are the worst, aren't they?
No, I'm not talking about suicide bombers. I'm talking about
the ones that got shot
that
in Streatham and London Bridge.
Yeah, and
so who would be top of the list?
In my mouth, I rang up with a legitimate point, and
here you are making it. I love it. Why are you getting why are you being such a snowflake?
Because.
So who would you kill first?
What do you mean? Who would I kill first?
Who's the best?
Like Rosemary West.
I think she's dead, isn't she?
Okay, there we go. Have a good day, James.
Self-awareness, eh? It's not always pretty. Sam's in Westminster. Farmers aren't very happy, generally speaking. Sam, can you see more light at the end of this particular tunnel than perhaps they can? Because obviously calling from Westminster, you're unlikely to be on a tractor at the moment.
I'm not, although I have thought about saving up for a cabbage patch in Regent's Park. But
Get on with it.
Really.
Get on with it.
I'm not going to say Brexit's going to revolutionise farming, and I don't think, there's no clear replacement for the CAP, but I think there are some silver linings if we look at competition, if we look at the environment, and also land prices in agricultural land. I mean, if you look at the average profit made by a farm purely off its agricultural activities, that's just £6,200. So I think removing CAP support is not going to be good news for a lot of farmers. Some will fail.
Who will it be good news for? Which ones do you think it will be good news for?
So it'll be good news for farmers that are willing to innovate and invest more in their own growth. I mean, a lot of people are getting...
You know that a farmer listening to this is going to insist that you describe what those words mean.
How so?
Innovate is about as vague a word as either of us could come up with in 100 years, isn't it?
That's a fair point. But getting better agricultural equipment, paying for better equipment to get higher yields or better crops. I'm no farming expert myself.
Clearly, because it's not going to help the hill farmers much, is it?
No, but I think if you look at the average profit being made by a farm, there's clearly something wrong there. If it's on agricultural activities around £6,200, there needs to be more competition in farming. That's my view on the
competition between whom?
Between the farmers in the UK, and I think in other countries.
How do you increase competition between farmers in the UK?
Because if you reduce CAP support, then
I see. So some of them will go bust, and that's a good thing.
Well, it's a good thing because, I mean...
no prizes for guessing which party you support, Sam. Let them go bust. And that's a good thing for the overall sector and the country.
I mean, I'm a Labour supporter who's against Brexit, but...
No, you're not. Let the farmers go bust.
No, look, I think, first of all, they've got some things to celebrate. I mean, if you look at the prices of farmland, that's gone up from 4,500 per hectare to 16,500 since 2003. So there's not too much to lose. Also, if you get rid of CAP...
So is it going to go up or down, the price of farmland?
Afterwards, well, presumably, I mean, it will go down a bit because, I mean, a lot of people...
So it's good news because some farmers will go bust and all farms will be worth less money. You're going to struggle to sell this to the farmers. You might be able to sell it to me if I was still asleep, but you're going to struggle to sell it to the farmers, aren't you? Your land's going to be worth less and some of you are going to go bust because competition.
But if you look at the average profit being made on agricultural activities by your average farm, I think there is a problem there, is there not, in that figure?
Quite possibly, but I'm asking what's good news for farmers today, and I'm not sure that your farm's going to be worth less and some of you are going to go bust. Could be filed under that category by anybody honest, could it, Sam?
Well, that's the laws of competition, isn't it? So the farmers that are innovating more and spending more on their own growth, rather than some of them will be having a farm because they get CAP support, less inheritance tax to pay.
So you would reject you'd reject the idea that this is much worse news for the richest landowners than it is for the poorest ones.
I don't think it's necessarily about that. I think it's about,
who's got the most money to spend on new equipment and new innovations? The poor ones or the rich ones?
Well, the ones that are rich presumably are rich for a reason, right? If they're rich,
well, in James Dyson's case, it's because he sells a lot of Hoovers, mate.
Yeah, that's true, and that's
And the Duke of Westminster, remind me of his farming pedigree that explains why his fortune is so.
No, you're right, and there will be some examples of very wealthy people who have been able to sort of enter the farming, but I don't think there is.
Well, they're the two biggest. I think they're the two biggest in the country, aren't they? Would I be right in thinking you have the same surname as the current Brexit negotiator?
You might be, yeah.
And you used to work with Jacob Rees-Mogg?
Not quite.
Did you tell him you were a Labour supporter who was opposed to Brexit, Sam Frost?
At the young age of 24, that'd be quite.
No, but did you though?
No.
Did he know you were a Labour supporter who was opposed to Brexit when you worked on Mogmentum?
I think you might have been mistaken for someone else. I could be wrong.
Okay.
Jonathan is in Finchley. Jonathan, how did he pull it off?
Hi, James. Morning. How are you?
Very well, thanks. What did he do?
Look, James, I am a passionate Remainer.
No such thing. No such thing, mate. You're a loser, like me.
Well, yes, all right. But Dominic Cummings is an asset to this government. He has
not anymore.
No, hang on. Let me finish.
Yes, of course.
He is one of the few people who has a knowledge of big data, of quantitative techniques. He is a data scientist. He could earn 5 times as much in the private sector. Now he probably will.
When did he?
When did he what?
Earn 5 times as much in the private sector? Because he was largely unemployed for quite a lot. I think he got laid off by the Spectator at one point. So why didn't he go off and make 5 times as much money in the private sector?
He was... I believe, James, that he was a graduate student in the States before he took this job.
He helped run a failed airline in Russia, and then he was doing some online work for the Spectator that he got binned from.
He was also a graduate student in the States for some time.
But I'm just saying, where's the evidence that he could be earning 5 times as much as a brilliant data scientist?
The evidence is, if you look at his skills, if you look at the adverts that he posted for specialists at Number 10,
and he ended up with a eugenicist and someone even worse. I don't want to have an argument with you. I just want to know where you're deriving the confidence in his abilities from, because I'm fairly confident he got laid off from the Spectator when all he was doing there was running the website. So,
have you read his blog, James?
Well, I've read some of his blog. I went back to the blog that he doctored after coming out of quarantine to pretend that he predicted the pandemic.
James, he didn't doctor the blog.
Okay, he simply changed it.
He
retrospectively
the fact that there were some references to coronavirus in the references that he put.
Yes.
His blog is indicative of a man who has a huge knowledge of big data.
Well, my blog is indicative of a man who could be managing the England football team. What I'm looking for is actual evidence of things that he's done in the private sector where you say he could be earning 5 times more money than he earns in Downing Street.
The fact is that he has huge data.
You can't keep just saying that. You need to point me at the evidence that he's deployed these skills.
Blog, James.
Right. So his blog that he writes himself is evidence of how brilliant he is.
In my opinion, yes.
That's fine. I would never rubbish your opinion, Jonathan. I respect it entirely. Are there any blogs written by anybody else that paint Dominic Cummings as a genius? Because they would arguably, Jonathan, they would be more powerful evidence for your case.
James.
Jonathan.
The fact that...
Simple question, Jonathan.
Boris Johnson's not an idiot, and Boris Johnson surrounds himself with very good people, for example, Sir Eddie Lister.
Priti Patel, Dominic Raab, Chris Grayling.
who is now Lord Lister. Please don't interrupt me.
Well, in that case, it's time to say goodbye. I'll give you one more chance to point me towards something written by someone other than Dominic Cummings that you offer up as evidence that Dominic Cummings is a genius, Jonathan, and I won't interrupt you.
The fact that Munira Mirza at number 10, who is herself a really very clever woman...
Is she a genius as well?
Oh, James, come on. Was willing to work with Dominic Cummings is indicative that the man had considerable abilities.
No, just the blog he wrote himself, then. Rob is in Leeds. Rob, what would you like to say?
Hi, morning, James.
Hello, Rob.
Right.
Right. Oh, Rob means business. Everybody sit down. Notebooks out. Right, let's go.
Okay. I think the problem is within our sort of two-party first-past-the-post system, both parties are obviously very broad coalitions, and I think the problem within Labour at the moment is the gap between the right and the left of the Labour Party has become so wide that under any kind of proportional representation system, they would have split into two parties.
And yet there was always room for Jeremy Corbyn and his serial whip defying in Tony Blair's Labour Party.
Yes, but because they posed no sort of threat to... I mean, Blair had such a large sort of majority that... Jeremy Corbyn at that time was just...
like a token rebel,
honest,
in a way.
I hadn't even heard of him until he stood for
no shame in that, I don't think. Fair enough. And an awful lot of his most passionate advocates hadn't either. He just became a vessel into which they could pour all of their most... fevered dreamings.
Well, I don't think that's fair. Because
it is, because some of these people weren't born when Jeremy Corbyn started off in Parliament.
Yes, I know, but, this sort of fevered dreaming...
Oh, all right. I'll scratch that then. I didn't... You're right. I've just been a bit cheeky. It's Chris Moyles' influence. But the Conservative Party isn't a broad church. Quite the opposite. The Conservative Party has actively purged all moderates or centrists or people who weren't, like Nicky Morgan, who weren't... But, she gets a job in Cabinet because she was... Matt Hancock, they went on telly and said things they know aren't true. Nicky Morgan had spoken on the record about how she could never serve in Boris Johnson's cabinet, and yet here she is. So they've sold their souls. They've got a bigger problem, surely, with a lack of diversity.
Right, okay, with the Tory party, I think there's one thing above all that unites
power.
A lust for power, yes, you've taken the words out of my mouth. It was a lust for power. I remember hearing Alistair Campbell speak once, I think it was after the... what was it, the 2015, was it, election?
Ed Miliband.
Ed Miliband was there. I remember him saying that one thing we've learnt from this is there's one thing that the Tories are absolutely passionate about, and that is power, and they will burn any policies, burn any sort of... sense of decency just to get into power. I mean, so
that's a big answer.
No liar and an adulterer, they will take it.
Doesn't matter if that's the best chance of winning. You're over the line. Of course, I mean, the problem here becomes that old tension. And the first ever phone-in we did about Jeremy Corbyn came down to this. It was people saying he puts principles ahead of pragmatism and power. He'd rather be right in defeat than wrong in victory. As it's turned out, he's been wrong and defeated. But that's the problem, and that is probably a big part of it. Within the Labour Party itself, people cannot understand, as Matt Ford just said, why wouldn't you listen to winners?
Right. Well, hang on, just before we get there. One of the reasons I would say it's not just down to, sort of Jeremy Corbyn's policies or whatever, that Labour. I think this defeat of Labour was a long time in the making. It goes right back to Blair, who I find absolutely appalling that he should sort of...
I know. Damn him with his 3 general election victories and huge Labour majorities.
But is that...
Well, we need more of Jeremy Corbyn's brand of politics. If we can do as badly as 1935 this time round, we should be aiming to do as badly as 1835 next time.
You're now talking like a Tory.
Why don't I F off and join them, Rob? Is that the next line?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. So tell me why you find the winner abhorrent and the loser sympathetic.
You're trying to put words in my mouth.
Okay, what word would you use to describe what Tony Blair did in 3 general elections?
Part of the problem, Bob.
What word would you use to describe what he did in 3 general elections if you don't like winner?
I think he took the party so far to the right, it was almost indistinguishable from the Tory party.
Indistinguishable from Michael Howard and Ian Duncan Smith's Tory party.
Yeah, at that point you had a Labour Party that didn't do anything to roll back the sort of neoliberal sort of agenda that Thatcher had put in place.
And here it is, unintentionally, the answer you've provided to the question of why the Labour Party is so divided couldn't be clearer.
Andy is in Mile End. Andy, what can you tell us?
All right, where do we start? 20 years ago?
Well, no, I'm starting in February of 2021.
20 years ago, company, right? Had a company.
Yeah.
Okay, employed British lads. I'll talk them how to do building work, etc., etc. Fantastic. We employed local. All right, then in 2000, 2001, all right, we started getting a lot of migration into the UK. And every young guy that came into the UK was a professional builder.
Well, obviously that's not entirely true, but we'll let it pass.
It isn't. No, that's the point I'm making.
Yes.
Right, but the thing is, no one cared. The government didn't care at the time, about our jobs, about our children, our mortgages, our bills. They didn't care.
Well,
cheap labouring. I don't know why they did it. Don't ask me why they did it. It was just too much. It was too much, too quick. We was put out of business, all right, along with other companies, local companies. They were put out of business. I can tell you that.
I don't doubt anything you're saying.
Sandwich bar. You talk about
who am I going to hire in February of next year?
Well, you employ local. You employ our children.
Why aren't they working? Why didn't they apply last time?
Why didn't they employ last time? Because they've got cheap labour.
So how much do I have to pay, do you think? I'm paying 23 grand at the moment. How much am I going to have to pay my sandwich workers?
You pay someone on their work.
O'Brien's Baps. I'm changing the name to O'Brien's Baps. I think that's got more of a ring to it. But Andy, I've heard. I'm not going to argue with you.
You talk about O'Brien's Baps. Yeah?
Yes.
You can go down to Morrison's, Sainsbury's. You can go down to any supermarket and get a sandwich for £2.
Well, that's why I have a very careful employment. That's why I interview. You see, because that's why I'm looking for enthusiasm and I'm looking for talent and I'm looking for a bit of spark.
You pay people merit. You pay people what they're worth.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
So where am I going to get my staff from in February? And with respect...
over the last
hang on. When you say with respect, you're about to say something afterwards. So I said with respect, I'm talking about people who've still got businesses.
Well, I mean...
if I was really brutal, I suppose I'd say, why would I take advice from someone who went under?
Yeah, but
I'm not brutal. I'm not brutal like that. And if my business had gone under, I'd blame it. I'd blame it on foreigners. But foreigners.
You tell me why we went under, and I'll tell you.
I'll tell you why. Foreigners.
No, not just necessarily foreigners.
Well, what else?
It was the cheap labour of foreign labour.
Yeah, foreigners.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was,
foreigners.
I'm a foreigner.
Yeah, we're all foreigners.
All right, we're all foreigners.
But you're all right. I don't mean you. I mean the other lot.
No, what other lot?
Well, the other lot, the cheap lot.
No. You can't throw that at me, right?
I didn't throw anything at you.
No, you're not going to twist this one.
I've got a sandwich business going bust, and you're talking about builders in 2002. This is not very useful to me, Andrew.
No, but at the end of the day, what happened then is happening now, isn't it? But it's vice versa.
No, well, I don't know what that means, mate.
What you're saying is you're caring about the people now. What about the people then? No one give a damn.
That's simply not true. I mean, I know that. I know that retrospectively, it's very, very seductive to claim that nobody gave a damn. But I was in this job, mate, and we talked of nothing else. I could open up my phone lines every morning, and there you would be complaining about Eastern... I think 2004 was the cut-off point rather than 2000, 2001. But these are exercises in hair-splitting. And I mean, to be fair, you haven't said they were all sleeping 15 to a room and this, that, and the other. I'm happy to accept that as... reality, even though I don't think it was. I'm happy for the purposes of these conversations to say, yeah, that was all true. It's got absolutely nothing to do with today. Absolutely nothing to do with today. And also, I mean, are you telling me that if I want an extension built next week or next year, I'm going to have to pay a lot more than I currently do? Because they probably should have explained that when they were selling this policy as well, especially to people who are poorer than me, who maybe couldn't afford to pay a little bit extra to have a a downstairs loo put in, or to have the cellar tanked, or to have the loft conversion done, or whatever it may be. I think if you're going to bring in immigration reforms designed to increase wages, you need to tell everybody in the country that their cost of living is about to go up. But you never like it when it's explained that way round. Donde está el papel higiénico, por favor? Karen's in Hertfordshire. Karen, what made you pick up the phone?
Hello. Oh, hello, James. I'm really nervous.
Don't be.
Actually, you touched on it is a religious thing. It is totally to do with a religion.
What is, Karen?
The end times, and it's to do with Satan. People pray to him, and the top people have got all the money and the riches.
This is what are you telling me, or is this what you believe as well, Karen?
I believe it in my heart that
Okay.
Satan,
So who, for example, who is the most prominent Satanist?
Please let me talk.
Well, you are talking, Karen.
Okay. Satan wants to destroy God's world.
Yes.
And all the people who...
So who would be, because we are going to run out of time, and I've got the gist of what you're telling me. Who are the most prominent Satanists, do you think, in society at the moment?
Bill Gates, George Soros, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, George Bush.
Right.
And then there's
And if I were to ask who you follow, who are the people that you get your truth from?
The Bible, Jesus.
So the Bible doesn't mention Hillary Clinton. I was reading it on Sunday. So the people who told you that Hillary Clinton is a Satanist?
The Bible says there's a mark of the beast that's coming at the end times.
Yes, I know, but who told you Hillary Clinton was a Satanist?
I looked things up and everything.
Yes, but where did you look it up? Where did you look it up?
I'm more interested in the Bible side of it.
Well, so am I, and that's why I was surprised you just listed a bunch of people who aren't in the Bible. So who told you that Barack Obama was a Satanist?
You can look things up.
I know. Where did you look it up? What was the source? Who that said George...
I don't want something that I want to look it up. What's going on?
No, I know. Where did you look? Where did you find the evidence that George Bush is a Satanist?
You're trying to distract me from what I'm saying.
No, I'm literally asking you to prove what you're saying. Hillary Clinton is a Satanist. Who says? Where did you get that information from?
I can't prove that, but the end time...
No, but you don't need to prove it. You just need to tell me where you got that idea from.
Right, in the Bible...
No, but you didn't get it from the Bible, because Barack Obama isn't in the Bible. So where did you get the idea that Barack Obama is a Satanist?
I'm interested in Barack Obama. I'm saying what's coming.
No, I know, but you told me Barack Obama is a Satanist. I want to know where you got that from. I mean, you could say it was a vision from God if you wanted. At least that would fill the gap where the answer should be. So, go on.
I just read the Bible and I know what's coming.
But we know that the Bible didn't tell you that Barack Obama is a Satanist, Karen.
I'm interested in Barack Obama. I'm interested in the vaccine.
Yes, but who told you Barack Obama is a Satanist?
People pray to Satan.
Yes.
People pray to him.
Yes.
And he gives them riches and tells them what to do. Satan wants to destroy God's world.
Yes, no, I know what the Book of Revelation says, but you listed a lot of human beings.
I know you go to church, don't you, James?
You listed a lot of, well, not a church like yours, Karen, but you listed a lot of human. You listed a lot of human beings. You listed a lot of human beings who are. You said are Satanists, and you must have got that source from somewhere.
You go to Catholic Church. Do you believe in Satan?
Lord above. The question is a simple one. Who told you...
Destroy God's people.
Yes, but who told you Barack Obama is a Satanist? I just want you to show me where to look. Where can I do the research? That's a better way of phrasing the question. Where can I find all this information?
I don't know, just put in Satanist and Barack Obama. I don't know, put it in. I don't know.
So you don't actually know where you got this information from?
I just look things up. I don't know which sites I went on. Just look things up. I want to know what's going in my arm. I want to know where it's coming from.
But you just said you've got no idea what the sites are you're looking at. How do you know that they're true?
How do you know anything's true? The only true thing is the Bible.
Yes, which doesn't mention Barack Obama. So again, I mean, the idea that he's a Satanist or that the vaccine is not to be trusted, where do you get that information from, Karen?
Oh, my word. Right, I thought we were talking about the vaccine.
Well, no, you started talking about Satan immediately you came on the programme.
Yeah, because that's...
And so the question remains, where do you get this information from? Because I'd like to have a look. So what are the sources?
What, that Satan wants to destroy the world and God's world?
No, that Barack Obama is a Satanist and that the vaccine is part of Satan's toolbox.
Yes, that the vaccine is, yes.
Yeah, so
definitely.
where do you get that idea from? Because I'd like to research it further.
Because we're going to all be marked, James.
I know, but the vaccine and Barack Obama are not in the Bible. So where did you get the idea?
Why do you keep going on about him? Go on and talk about the vaccine.
Yes. Okay, where did you get the idea that the vaccine is the work of Beelzebub?
Because it's going to have chips in it, it's going to have DNA.
Where are you getting this information from?
I look it up, you can look it up. You can look
Where do you look it up, Karen?
vaccine and then things come up.
Yes, but what are they? Where do they come from? Who checks them?
I'm not going down to my GP and having something put in my arm that I don't know anything about, where it's come from, why it's only come out.
But you can research where it's come from. That's what you just told me. You researched where it comes from. So where do you find this stuff out?
It's a bit quick, isn't it, for a vaccine? They take years to come out. It's all been pre-planned.
Right. And again, for the final time, the idea that it's all been pre-planned as part of a satanic conspiracy,
yes.
and all I'm asking is where I can go to find out more.
Just look on the internet, just look things up, just put vaccine in, put anything, any word you want, look up. People put good things in about
and how can you tell which sites are trustworthy and which sites aren't?
I don't know anymore because even the media is not trustworthy. Everything's been taken over.
By whom?
Literally everything.
By whom?
The cabal, whatever you want to call it, the pyramid people, the Illuminati.
All right, Karen. Stay away from scissors, won't you? Ed's in Hounslow. Ed, what do you reckon?
Good morning, James. I was disappointed that...
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, I should say, yeah. I was disappointed that Karen was really couldn't give the points that she wanted to make and give the evidence and whatever. Well, I have irrefutable proof that James O'Brien is a disciple of Satan.
Okay.
And that's irrefutable.
Yes.
So there we have it.
Okay. So when you rang in, what did you think was going to happen? I don't want to sound ungrateful, but are you being funny or are you being too clever for me?
Well, I'm not sure. You must let me know. What I can tell you...
Well, I can't tell you the contents of your own mind, Ed.
No,
I don't think there's a microscope big enough.
I'm telling you what you're asking me to tell you, that's all. All I can say to you is that, yes, we are in a world of deceit. There is conspiracy all around us, and so we mustn't rule anything out. If somebody tells us something that we should be concerned about, we shouldn't dismiss it. We should look into it. That's the point, didn't we?
No, I've no idea, Ed.
I thought you might not have.
How did you vote in the referendum?
Why would you need to know that?
Well, because I already know.
Well, I haven't called in about the referendum. I called in about what you asked me to call in about.
But I already know. Sorry, I thought we were doing jokes about reading each other's minds. You just accused me of being a disciple of Satan, and you're throwing your toys out the pram because I suggested you voted leave in the referendum.
I thought we were talking about conspiracies.
Yes. Go. Oh, no, Ed, don't go. It was brilliant. I was. Oh my days, they walk among us. Jim in Hounslow is here to kick us off. What have we got, Jim?
There's a few different reasons why, obviously, people I think are concerned and sort of resisting mask wearing. One based on feeling like the freedom of choice and decision and perhaps the threat of dictatorship is looming over us.
Do you feel that?
Absolutely.
Threat of dictatorship is looming over us.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when you look around what's going on around in other parts of the world, like you say, obviously things are different politically. But what we see in other, Commonwealth countries like Australia, and them, obviously talking about, no jab, no pay, for the vaccine, for example.
Yeah, we don't do vaccine skepticism. We don't do pro-plague comments on this programme, so just keep it to the face mask if you would.
Okay.
So you feel that being required to wear a face mask is a baby step towards a dictatorship? Who would be leading the dictatorship?
Okay, so I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, the with the media, instilling this kind of idea that basically, if you don't wear a mask, you're not sensible.
No, but I'm reading. I mean, this phone-in is about all the people in the media telling you not to wear a mask and how ridiculous it is that they're required.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean that's good. I mean, but obviously
it's not though, is it? So just if we take one question at a time, who would be the dictator? Do you think in this dictatorship that you fear we're heading towards?
Well, ultimately, if the government are bringing in policy like to mandate, certain things, which basically are,
just give me a name. Who would be the dictator, Jimmy? Do you think?
Who would be the dictator? Well, it's who's ever, advising and influencing, the people that we see, in office at the end of the day.
This will sound a bit snarky, but it isn't. You keep saying and I genuinely haven't got a clue. So Boris Johnson does he want to be a dictator?
I don't think I can't say whether he wants to be a dictator or not. I mean, what he is planning and what they're doing behind closed doors, we've got no idea at the end of the day. I mean, he may well be.
Because if you wanted to be a dictator, if we were heading towards a dictatorship, wouldn't they have just picked one thing and then stuck with it really slavishly? Because on Monday they said we don't need face masks. So on Monday, did they not want to be dictators?
Well, I mean, I think, obviously it's trying to manage people and also at the same time...
I know you've got a lot to say, but I really need you to answer the questions that I'm asking. So on Monday, the official government advice for school children in secondary schools was not to wear a face mask. And so did they want to be dictators then?
Well, I think that they have a narrative or they have a plan to do what they're going to do, but they have ways of doing it.
You're not saying anything that makes sense. I hope that doesn't sound rude because it's a yes/no question. On Monday,
my time's limited.
So's mine. But so let's keep it short then. So on Monday, when the official advice was not to wear a face mask, because it's Wednesday today, the official advice is to wear a face mask, and you think that's a sign that we might be being led towards a dictatorship. So on Monday, when it was the opposite, when the official advice was that we shouldn't wear face masks, did they not want to be dictators then? Yes or no, mate, if you don't mind.
You're putting questions to me.
Yes, I am.
Basically, I'm trying to manipulate how I respond. I'm
not. I'm just saying today you think face masks are a sign of dictatorship because they're government policy.
Well,
on Monday they weren't government policy on Monday. So I just want you to say whether or not they wanted to be dictators on Monday like they do today on Wednesday.
Every step where they're bringing in something to do with look, let's just look at the health issues behind this.
You haven't even begun to answer a single question that I've asked. But I'm going to be quiet for a couple of minutes and let you speak.
If you would, thank you. So basically, as we know that people are exempt from having, wearing masks because of underlying or hidden difficulties or disabilities, we don't know how many children haven't been diagnosed with those those disabilities. So again, how many children are potentially being affected emotionally and psychologically because they're being forced to wear a mask, actually, and they're also losing that interaction that basically children have always had for forever. We've never had this in history. So for hundreds of years or thousands of years, people haven't worn masks, and now we don't know what the long-term ramifications could be.
They all had gas masks during the Second World War. Children were all issued with gas masks.
They had to wear them inside schools.
So they had to wear them when the danger was present and acute.
Okay, it's probably quite different, and obviously where we're talking about gas and obviously an attack, a biological.
No, we're talking about masks, and you saying it's the first time in hundreds of years that children have been required to wear them.
I can also tell you as somebody that
we're just going to ignore that and move on, are we?
No, I'm just I know my time's short.
I know it is. That's why you haven't answered a single question I've asked yet.
But you're putting pressure on. But basically, I run a top carpet cleaning specialist, and the training of wearing a respirator, they always said that basically you had to basically do it for short intervals because it actually affects your breathing, and it does put stress on you. So, and my partner, she's an asthmatic, and she started wearing a mask, and then actually it made her asthma a lot worse.
Yes.
Some people are okay wearing masks.
Of course they are.
I appreciate that. But again, doing it repeatedly all the time over a long period of time, there is still no science proof that we know whether that's actually going to have long-term effects on your immune system through lack of oxygen and more breathing in.
I would just pause you there. The idea that it might have a long-term effect on your health due to lack of oxygen is, with the greatest of respect, that's complete pants. But I just want to end with one last go at getting you to answer the dictatorship.
Well, there's actually science.
Just the dictatorship thing. I genuinely want to know whether or not you change your fear of dictatorship wasn't there on Monday when the government advice was not to wear them, but it appeared today or late yesterday when the U-turn happened. That's when you started fearing there was a dictatorship there.
So no, my awareness or consciousness of the threat of dictatorship has been actually very, very much since sort of halfway through the lockdown, as I started to gather my own information on the statistics from I run a large company with many clients.
I know,
right?
but you didn't. So you fear the dictatorship more. You already feared it on Monday when the advice was not to wear masks, and now the advice is to wear masks. You fear it even more. What do you think the next sign would be of the looming
they're bringing
dictatorship?
steps in. So it's a case of, are they going to step up? If we're supposed to be wearing masks,
I know that your time is very, very limited, and so is my patience. I mean, it's immense, but you have to at some point answer a question that I've asked. So I think we've probably delighted each other long enough. Someone else can have a go at that, though, because he's right. I mean, it is the fear of a looming dictatorship that is being talked about in this context. But as is often the case with what look from the outside to be rather balmy positions, just one or two simple questions usually help us all to see whether or not there's anything in it or not. So who would be the dictator, for example? And, this is a policy that is the polar opposite of what it was yesterday. So if it's evidence today of us marching blindly towards a dictatorship, when the policy was the polar opposite yesterday, would that have been evidence of us not marching blindly to, in fact, even possibly running away from a dictatorship? And take care, Jimmy, and have a great day. But the reason why you don't answer the questions that I've asked and carry on regurgitating your own research is because you kind of somewhere deep down inside, you know what the answers to my questions are. Mike's in Bridgend. Mike, what would you like to say?
Global warming or climate change is happening. Mankind's efforts aren't helping matters, although they may not be instigating it. But
the scientists say they are.
Well, okay, we'll beg to differ on that.
Well, let's stop right there then, because that's the thing that interests me most. In what other areas do you beg to differ with science? What about when you're ill and you go to the doctors?
No, I'm not contradicting science. I mean, climate change is a natural phenomenon.
No, but you see, the scientists say it isn't, Mike. So I'm not going to patronise you by asking what your qualifications are, but I'm going to ask where you get your information from.
Well, by mere virtue of the fact of history, at once upon a time we used to skate on the Thames, and we used to go out there to grow grapes. So
because the Thames froze over, you think the scientists have got climate change wrong?
No, they haven't.
So what then? No. Where do you get your information from? I'm genuinely fascinated to know, because I can't really agree to disagree until I understand.
That's not what I wanted to say.
No, but that's what I need you to say. So it's not because the Thames froze over. What was the other thing? Because we used to grow grapes.
Yeah.
So because we used to grow grapes here, climate science is wrong.
No, climate science isn't wrong.
So it is man-made then.
What mankind is doing isn't helping matters.
Yes.
I wouldn't go as far as to say we are actually instigating it.
But the science does, you see. And while the science can be wrong, it can only really be superseded by better science. So you could say to me, well, I've studied this, that and the other, and it's a bit like Galileo explaining that the Earth revolves around the sun, not the other way around. The whole world thought he was wrong, but he had a telescope and he could show you that it was true. So where do you get your confidence from that the scientists have got everything wrong?
I'm not saying the scientists are wrong.
You are, mate, because you're saying that it's not instigated by humanity, and they're saying that it is. So we're not arguing. We're just picking over your words and your sources. Where do you get your information from?
Well, you will have one lot of scientists saying it is, and one lot of scientists saying it isn't.
Exactly. So where are the ones who are saying that it isn't? Who's your favourite?
I can't name them.
Well, how do you know they exist?
Well, because you read their blogs.
Where did you read their blogs?
Online in certain papers.
And their names?
I don't know.
But you're sure they're scientists?
The scientists that are saying it is.
You're sure they're scientists? Because they would generally publish research papers. They wouldn't be writing blogs for newspaper websites.
Well, no, but I mean...
So if I just said, give me one name of someone that when I say, here's the science... And remember, the question I'm asking is not why don't you believe the scientists, it's what's the worst that could happen if we trusted the experts? And you say, well, hang on, here's another expert. Who would you name?
I couldn't.
So why are you on the radio?
Yeah, but I couldn't even name an expert who's saying it does.
But why are you on the radio?
Well, the point I'm making is that whatever we try to do, it's got to be a global effort. It's no good, you know...
But why do you need to make a global effort if it's not created by humans?
It needs to be a global effort.
But what do you mean by that? If it's not created by humans, a global effort to do what?
I'm saying... I didn't say that. I said it's not necessarily instigated by humans.
Yes, so what would a global effort achieve if humans haven't instigated it?
If we all pull our weight across the globe, and I'm talking about like China, India, Russia, the big polluters.
So you do think that humans create climate change, then?
We're not helping matters.
So we do create it?
We're not helping matters.
OK, Mike. Look, before you go, my friend, Happy New Year. And any chance of naming one person who I can read up on who refutes the scientific consensus?
No, the next time I'll come on, I'll give one, all right.
And finally... You get your information. I mean, you've mentioned blogs, and you don't need to name anybody. Just sort of one little clue as to where you get your confidence from, because you're on national radio, and I'm grateful for your call, and I love you like a brother. But you're talking about Australia is currently on fire. I'm saying trust the scientists. You're saying don't because of this guy or this site or website or blog. So just can you give us something? One source, one clue.
Not at this time, but I will.
Okay, Mike. Well, thanks for ringing in.
David's in Croydon. David, who do you think this is designed to delight?
People like me.
Yes,
James.
Too many foreigners here, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's too many people in general.
Too many people in general.
Yeah, too many people.
Right.
So I've heard you say quite a lot before that if you look at the figures, then immigrants are net contributors to the economy.
EU migrants, not non-EU.
Right, okay. So if we use that as like a good thing to aim for, why don't we just skim off all the individual cases where they're not net contributors and get rid of them?
Yeah.
And then we're left with
we've already answered that.
People.
You've already heard that answered by the people you're actually talking about. They don't want to come to a country like that.
Well, then we don't need... If we've got a threshold of 25...
No, I understood what you said. You're just pretending not to understand what I said. We've spoken to all those people that you would, quotes, keep, end quotes. They don't want to come to a country where the rules are made by people like you.
Okay. They don't have to, do they?
No. So who's going to do the jobs they currently do?
Well, like what?
Mate, I'm not Google. I'm not Google, David.
Jobs. No, okay, but...
So, well, let's take the medical engineer that we spoke to. Let's take the medical engineer that we spoke to. Who's going to do that job if she now feels unwelcome, despite passing all the thresholds?
Somebody else from this country or...
Yeah, of course. 11:30. Well done, David. Just proving it without realising it. Used to be funny. Now it's just tragic. Rob's in Hull. Rob, do you know?
Hi, James. I'm happy with the points-based system purely for the fact that it is a system per filter. And the reason why is when we allowed, almost unlimited EU migration, about 2003, 2004, I forget exactly. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry in a factory job in the labs.
I'm just going to pause you briefly and check that you know that we didn't have to do that. Lots of other European Union countries chose to limit movement from the accession stage, and you know that even now we could have insisted that people had a job or demonstrated the means to support them within 3 months of arriving here, or they could have been required to leave, but successive governments elected not to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Good. That's what I'm getting onto, because I was there, I saw it with my own eyes when literally buses of workers came to the factory.
Yes.
And no one's blaming the people that came here. Of course, they want to come here to try and...
Well, I'm going to have to pause you there as well, because lots of people are, Rob, but I appreciate that you're not one of them.
Some people are. Yes. I understand that, and you're always going to get the nut jobs.
Well, they're not jobs, mate, are they? They are. That's the will of the people. But I appreciate you're not one of them. You've got legitimate concerns.
Yeah, well, I'll choose to call them what I've called them. I won't
all right, fair enough.
But literally, over about the space of 12 months, all the terms and conditions got changed, the wages got slashed. Yes. All right, a lot of people were allowed to retire. The apprenticeship scheme vanished. So it's not the fault of the people coming here to work, but that's what happens when you've got an oversupply of something. The value of that drops. Ergo, the wages dropped, and they're still dropped now. So what is going to happen, the only thing that can happen, is those businesses that want to continue to employ people and fight each other for labour, the wages will go up. Yeah. Those that can't innovate, they'll go bust. And that's just tough, that's life. So... I blame the Labour government for doing that. And at the time, between...
But you do, I mean,
now
I don't
and
know if
then,
you took on board what I said. We didn't have to leave the European Union to do any of this.
No, I'll tell you why I think we did.
Right.
Because if we tried to have a conversation about any of that in the interim period, we'd get shouted down as racist.
No, you see, you wouldn't, Rob.
No,
that's
we did. It's not a case of we wouldn't.
No,
we
you
did.
didn't, because I often get told that I used to do that, and I didn't. It's very snowflakey to complain that everyone's calling me a racist. Everyone's calling me a racist. It's nothing racist about it. Here's the question, though. This pharmaceutical firm that you worked in, perhaps presided over by the European Medical Agency?
Yes, it is. It is now, yeah.
Well, it's not now, is it?
Well, all right. Well, it might be for the next year.
How many jobs have gone to? I think is it Holland as a result of the EMA moving out of London?
To be quite honest with you, I'm not bothered because...
I know you're not, mate. That's fine. But you know that they have gone. And the idea that if we don't have a free trade agreement with our biggest marketing partners at the moment, where are we going to be selling all the drugs that you make in this factory?
Yeah, I'm not disputing the fact that we're going to go through a tough period, but the reason I think...
Well, hang on, who told you there was going to be a tough period before June 2016?
Well, if people can't understand that themselves...
I'm not asking them, I'm asking you. Who told you? Who told you prior to June 2016 that there was going to be a tough period?
Nobody.
Where was the bus? Where was the bus that said tough period on the side of it?
Sorry, James, what did you say?
I said, where was the bus with tough periods coming on the side of it? Why did Boris Johnson talk about sunlit uplands if he really meant tough periods?
Look, right, anyone who's switched on knows that politics is just to sell it. They're all salesmen.
You've got to answer the question. Why did Boris Johnson talk about sunlit uplands if everybody knew he was really talking about a tough period?
Because perhaps there's impressionable people out there will vote for things that are true.
17.4 million of them, minus you, yeah, because you knew what was going to happen.
Everybody, all those 17.4 million knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, they all knew that sunlit uplands was a lie, the bus was a lie, that there was going to be economic damage. They all knew it was going to be a tough period, didn't they?
In a synopsis, why I think we left the EU.
I think I already know why.
No, a lot of people understood that, but the fact that there was no discussion
so a lot of people
letting everyone in or afterwards.
But mate, we've never talked about anything else.
This is what you get.
Yes, but we've never talked about anything else. I've heard these arguments about immigration 7 million times on this programme. My entire world view starts with somebody telling me, a bloke from Hounslow, telling me that you can't talk about immigration without being called a racist.
James,
it's just not true.
These people are onto something.
Well, no, mate, it's you claiming that everybody who voted for Brexit knew that the people they were voting for were lying to them.
They weren't lying, they voted because we never had a chance to have that discussion. Every time we tried to say limit immigration, they got told.
That's not true.
They got told it was good for the economy.
That's not true.
It wasn't good for their economy.
That's not true.
It is true.
That's not what we're talking about. You're claiming they all knew that they were voting for the opposite of what they told they were voting for. And you think I'm patronising. That's incredible. That's really incredible. But, the writing's been on the wall for some time. Everybody who voted for Brexit knew that their lives were going to get worse. But it's the Remainers that are condescending and sneering. Incredible. 11:43 is the time, Rob. I wish you well. I really do. And, I hope that pharmaceutical facility that you describe finds a way forward in the brave post-Brexit world where we will have to sell pharmaceuticals only into territories that aren't regulated by the rules that have been in place for the last 30 years. Graham's in Walthamstow. Graham, what have you got?
Hi, James.
Hello, mate.
The thing is, I work with a driving job.
Yes.
Bus drivers, lorry drivers, they've got the thing called the CPC, drivers training. We don't need that, do we? It's £300 every 5 years, or the equivalent of people...
This is a certificate of professional competence.
Yeah.
Well, oddly, I've got, you won't believe this, but I've got a mate who's a lorry driver, and he tells me that this was introduced in order to make sure that drivers from other countries who were less competent and less well-trained couldn't come over here and start picking up work that would have been done previously by more highly trained and better regulated British haulage firms.
Well, I'm also told as well that it was actually, Britain that was instigated this into the EU. But to me, I don't see why I should be having to take a day off my work once every year for 5 years, or take a full week off to get 5 courses. You've got to do 5 courses.
Yes.
7 hours a day.
Well, I'm not. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to remind you that the rationale behind it is safety, your safety, and other road users' safety.
Well, there's still accidents happening. There's still bad driving happening.
Well, that's an argument. That's not really an argument to reduce.
Well, to me,
Professional competence testing, is it? The fact that there are still accidents. I mean, to be fair, if we were to be completely logical, the fact that there are still accidents happening could be used to argue that we need more rigorous standards and testing.
I don't think so.
I know you don't. I'm just telling you.
I think we need more police. The state of the bad driving, especially in London, I think the driving standards in London are shocking.
But you're here to tell us that you want less testing and less regulation of driving standards.
I think so.
Well, hang on. Either it's shocking. Oh, I see. So if they announced that it was going to apply also to leisure drivers, to all road users, you'd be less bothered by it. You just feel that as a haulier, you've been singled out for higher standards of driving competence.
Well, I think so. Yeah.
All right. No, well, I'm probably not. I'm not going to put it on the list. I'm not going to put it on the list. I'm going to suggest that you get help paying those fees. Because I still want you to do the tests, Graham, because it might be my kids crossing the road in front of you.
A lot of people that I know as well, bus drivers, they're on the breadline.
Yes.
And to take, the company that they work for actually pays for it.
Oh.
But there is a lot of people out there.
Well, then
so
take
a day off of work.
Well, it's another little curse of being self-employed, if I'm understanding you correctly. So if you're an employee in all but name, you're going to have to pay for it yourself. But if you are a proper employee, like you work for a bus company rather than being a self-employed lorry driver, even though you do all of your work for the same company, you're going to have to find the money yourself and take a day off work to do it.
There's a lot of people who work the company still force them to pay for it themselves.
No,
I'm lucky that I work for a company who pay for it.
Oh. So what are you moaning about then?
I think you should abolish it.
Well, but that would be you ringing up a radio station and saying, I think lorry drivers should have less professional competence testing.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that when you go through your driving test, that's it.
No, well, that's certainly true of everybody else on the road, isn't it? But I don't know. I mean, certainly the original explanation offered to me that this is a way of making sure that drivers from countries that have got much less rigorous testing than we have can't work here. I quite like that side of it. And while I would politically be very much behind calls for employers to pay for their employees to do this, rather than expecting employees to find the money out of their own pocket, I haven't, with love and respect, heard enough to put it on the list, because I kind of quite like professional competence. Ruth's in the Cotswolds to steer us back to the vaccines. Ruth, what would you like to say?
Good morning. I'm just wanting to sort of point out why I don't want the vaccine put in my arm, and why I think it's a little bit unethical then to sort of ban me from different places just because I choose not to have the vaccine. So if you were to go to the AstraZeneca ingredients, ingredients that are in the vaccine, it's all sort of very technical gobbledygook ingredients that probably none of us understand. But if you were to take those little ingredients one by one and Google them and Wikipedia what each little bit was, there's one little ingredient that says MRC5. And when you put that onto Wikipedia, MRC5 is the lung tissue of an aborted fetus. Now, I don't want that injected into my arm on ethical grounds.
It's developed from the lung tissue of an aborted.
But it's still developed from.
No, but you just misled my listeners.
No,
because they would have got the impression that they were going to inject an aborted fetus. So it's some cells from a fetus that have been developed in a laboratory to create an ingredient that goes into the vaccine.
Yeah.
So if you feel abortion is wrong, you could have an ethical objection to that, but that's just a belief, and my belief is that you're not allowed into the pub.
Absolutely, but if I don't want,
it's fibroblasts, isn't it? So the fibroblasts aren't in the lung tissue of a 14-week-old aborted Caucasian male fetus. The fibroblasts are developed. It's a diploid cell culture line that is developed from the lung tissue.
You wouldn't be able to get it without the aborted fetus.
No.
The aborted 14-week-old fetus.
No, but that's not in the vaccine, is it?
If I choose to be vegetarian,
and also that's already happened. So even if we banned all abortions tomorrow, we could still have this vaccine. You see, you hadn't thought of that, had you?
I know. No. I had.
So
But my
what's your
point is,
ethical objection then?
because I don't want anything that's come from an aborted fetus
It hasn't.
being injected into me.
It hasn't come from
has.
an... Well, okay. All right. Okay, well, let's say I respect your view, and I'll pretend that you're right, but you're not allowed in the pub. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, no, that's fine, but
Good.
I just think...
Or the cinema.
But, yeah, that's fine, but I just think that if you said, I'm going to be vegetarian and I don't want to eat meat...
Or why don't you take the other vaccines?
Well, actually, I have taken all my vaccines.
No, I mean the other COVID ones.
Yeah, but apparently, I've only just realised this, that lots of vaccines and lots of things that we take for granted do use aborted fetus cells.
No, again, they don't use aborted fetus cells. They use things, for want of a more technical term, that have been developed in laboratories from a starting point that involved cells from humans, from aborted fetuses. I mean, you presumably wouldn't want them to use... Because if you're going to make something that works on humans, I presume that in the development process, you need some human involvement. And I mean, you could use living... We could use prisoners, maybe, or we could use living sources.
But in the development of these vaccines, they will have used... You know, they won't just have used, oh, look, first time lucky, we've just used a few cells.
And this was back in 1966, I think, that this particular... MRC5 was developed. So there hasn't been, but you knew this already because you looked it up on Wikipedia, but there hasn't been an aborted fetus involved in the development of any of these components of the vaccine since 1966.
Well, I think if you did your research a little bit differently there, you would find that it's...
Okay, well, my bad then. Mark's in East Ham. Mark, how did this happen, do you think?
I think the European Union never sold itself to Great Britain.
Was it their job to do so, do you think?
Well,
it's a good point. It's a great point.
Wait a minute.
Yeah,
when you leave, you go home on a train or do you drive?
Here, I get the train and bus.
Right, ask everybody on the tube.
Well, I'm not going to do that,
name
mate.
5 members of the European Parliament.
These days.
5 MPs.
Yeah, well, there aren't any now, are there? We've already gone.
No, but in the last 40 years, as Europe told the United Kingdom what a great thing it is. I get a magazine once a month from my London borough telling me what they're doing. But if when they give €9 billion to Poland, what do they spend it on?
I don't know.
What does a man on the street know about the European Union except von der Leyen and Barnier?
And going back all fishing quotas and stuff like that. I think you're right, actually. And
Let me interrupt.
Okay.
When all this kicked off, I tried to read the common fish, the CPF, the common fisheries policy.
Yes.
I'll try to read it.
Okay.
Well, you get down to line 5, and I just couldn't make sense of it. I just think the people in... I mean, how tall are you? I'm 6'3". I don't say 2.1 metres. We went decimal in 1970.
Yeah.
The European Union could have done a bit more. I'm not slating them. I'm just
I know
saying,
you're not.
If it's so good, if it's such a great thing to be in, why on earth didn't we see a bit more of the...
Well, I think I know if I can have a crack at answering you. Can I? Well, imagine if they had... I think, Mark, you make a brilliant point. I'm not sure that we're pointing at the right culprit, though, because imagine if the European Union spent a few million quid on a letter or a document that was going to go through every letterbox in this country, particularly in the areas where European Union investment has been highest, like Cornwall and some of the other very poverty-stricken parts of our islands. Imagine if they'd spent a few million quid on a leaflet that had gone through every letterbox in the country.
Yeah, imagine.
Yeah, but wait, and now you turned your radio on the next morning, or you opened the Sun or the Daily Mail or the Daily Telegraph. How would they have reported, not the contents of the document, mate, but the cost of the publication? How would they have reported it?
Yeah, but you're asking the wrong bloke, because I don't read the papers. I'm selective with the news that I choose to read.
OK, well, then I'll tell you how they'd have. They would have talked about wasting our money on vanity exercises.
I know, but look, listen. There's
just
millions
look at how they report Sadiq Khan.
Newspaper to frame an opinion. A newspaper doesn't frame my opinion.
I'm not suggesting for a moment that it does. I'm just explaining to you perhaps one reason why the European Union didn't go down the path that you describe. But you also have 3 or more decades of denigration
And you're absolutely right. You speak to people in other European countries, and they, I mean, the only MEPs most of us could have named at some point were the ones who'd been elected to get us out of the European Union, which is almost hilarious, isn't it?
Every Wednesday we have Prime Minister's question times, Boris and Keir, blah, blah, blah. Now, that goes out on the telly and on the radio station, so people all over Europe, if they want to, can listen to that.
Yes.
I just had a great big thing in Europe yesterday about Turkey, about Cyprus, about going green. Why didn't we see that on the telly? Why didn't we hear it on the radio?
Well,
you know, why are we so distant from something that is supposed to be so fantastic? No one knows nothing about it. I'm telling you.
I know, mate. I
just
need to pause you slightly, because there's a slightly aggressive tone in this conversation, and I think we're both on exactly the same...
I'm not aggressive.
No.
But look, you said why we are where we are now is because people voted and...
without knowing enough to cast an informed vote.
Because the European Union never said enough, in my opinion.
OK, well, that's where I disagree with you, because, but only insofar as who the messenger is. The message is the reason why we are where we are. No one ever defended it. And even when the referendum started, Mark, it was like a retroactive response to what the other side said. Nobody went out and said, this is why being in the European Union is good. All they ever did was say, this is why leaving the European Union would be bad. And, of course, what Project Fear then did was allow all of the people who perhaps weren't in great possession of fact or evidence, they could just turn around to the other lot whose predictions or forecasts have mostly come true and just poo-poo them. They could just say, Project Fear, and now it's all coming true. It's Project Here.
I know people can say Project Fear.
Yes.
I know people can poo-poo it. But if I would have seen a lot more of what the European Union does, where the money goes, what the good things that come out of it, where all the good things happen, who benefits from it, I reckon a lot more people would have voted in a different way.
I do too.
But they're a silent entity.
All right, one more thing, just by way of an illustration of my point. I think of foreign aid, and there is some money spent on foreign aid that's a joke, right? Some of it goes into the pockets of corrupt local officials. Some of it is spent on schemes that are daft. Those, and I know you don't read the paper, so you're going to have to trust me on this. A certain type of colonist...
I can't trust you. You're a Catholic. You went to private school.
I'm a snake in the grass as well, Mark. Don't forget that.
Here, well done, Ken.
But here's the point. Foreign aid also is largely for the good, but the only elements of it that ever get reported are the negative elements, and that's what's happened with the European Union over 30 years. But you possibly won't know that.
Yeah, but look, again, why don't you see on the telly or in the papers the good foreign aid does?
Well, I know I can answer this.
All the good people doing good things.
Yes, exactly.
Never get a hearing. It's just the people that say, well, that's bad. So then everybody thinks it's bad.
Well, yes, we are in complete harmony.
I tell you, I reckon the EU is going to be kicking himself up the arse for really not putting himself a bit more about in.
Well, it wasn't their job. I mean, this is where we will agree to disagree. It wasn't their job to do it, and they would have been treated. I thought we were getting close to a concord there. That any attempts to portray the positives would have been treated like any attempts to portray the negatives. And the short answer to your question of why we only focus on negatives and we only report the bad stuff is, very simply, it's a hell of a lot easier to sell tickets for the ghost machine, the ghost train even, than it is for the speak your weight machine.
John's in Sunbury. John, what would you like to say?
I think this is a great big media blow-up. I mean, do you honestly think that Churchill would have spent his time during the war at Cobra meetings? He had better things to do.
Did he?
Of course he did. He was running the country, he was running the war. He wasn't sitting
But Boris
there.
Johnson was on holiday.
Well, everybody has a holiday. And was he on holiday? How do you know he was on holiday?
Well, because he was.
How do you know?
Well, he's not denying it. No one's denying it.
Well, how do you know? You don't have to deny things. But I mean,
mate, you've come on the radio come on the radio to say Churchill was far too busy leading the war effort to attend Cobra meetings, and I've pointed out that Boris Johnson was on holiday, and you've kind of, with respect, John, you've kind of fallen apart. You've sort of fallen apart a bit.
The point is that does the Prime Minister have to attend every Cobra meeting?
During a time of unprecedented national crisis. No, you need to add the second bit. You need to add the second bit. Otherwise, you've fallen into the trap that's been set for you. Okay, so does the Prime Minister need to chair COBRA when the country is facing the biggest peacetime crisis in living memory? Answer, obviously.
Was it then? Or was he
Yes, it was. For all of February, we were looking at the... Brexit has also appeared in this report, of course, because one of the reasons given for our failure to be properly prepared for the pandemic, particularly in PPE sectors and elsewhere, is that too many people had been put on preparing for no-deal Brexit duty. So just briefly, because I have got to go to the news, what do you think you've got left by way of an argument in defence of Boris Johnson?
I'm not necessarily defending Boris Johnson. I'm attacking the press for making a fuss out of nothing.
Lurgenpresse. Down with the media, just like Donald Trump. I bet you didn't realise you were going to be doing a Donald Trump tribute act.
Of course, because you're part of it.
Absolutely, I am. But I also criticise the media on such a regular basis that I've received coatings in print from the best-selling newspaper in the country, John. But you crack on with your fake news. I bet you weren't expecting to be a second-rate Donald Trump tribute act when you rang into the station this morning, but here you are.
Mervyn is in Croydon. Mervyn, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. I've got quite a simple philosophy, and I want a no deal on the grounds that I want to retain control over our fishing waters. And the other thing is,
are you in the industry? Are you linked with fishing?
No, I'm not.
Well, why do you feel so strongly about it, do you think?
I'm 74.
Yeah, well,
I was a fighter pilot in the Air Force for 20 years, and I have a simple view of things. But what I want to now say...
I just want to know why fish is so important to you, fishing waters.
Because, if I owned a fishing pool that I rented out and let people come and fish in,
yes.
I wouldn't want a load of interlopers coming and saying, because we used to have an agreement years ago, I can still come here.
But no one's saying that. We had an agreement. Just out of interest, how many fishing vessels do you think are registered in the UK, just as a ballpark figure?
I used to work up near Grimsby, and I used to know Grimsby when it was bubbling with fishing vessels, and I know that for whatever silly reason, British people sold off the rights to fish in British waters.
And that's not the EU's fault, is it?
No, and that was the mistake of the people around at the time.
Well, that's freedom, though. If I own something, I'm free to sell it to whoever I want, aren't I? But just as a ballpark figure, how many vessels do you think there are at them? Because, I mean, it sounds like I'm haranguing you, but I don't understand this deep prioritisation of fishing that you've described yourself as feeling. So how much do you know about the fishing industry to justify the conclusion that it's more important than many other issues or areas?
When I was a fighter pilot, I used to fly over the North Sea, and I used to see the Grimsby fleet go out.
Yes.
And there were hundreds of boats at the time in the 70s and 80s. How many of
we were in the European Union in the 70s and 80s, or we were in its predecessor, of course.
But as
I do want to. Yeah.
When you add them all up together, there's probably 500 or a couple of thousand.
Yeah, it's 5,911.
Yeah.
So 10 times what you suggested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me again why it's so important, if you would.
That's one of the things, but no deal. Europe sells twice as much to us as we to them,
yes.
And we will make a profit on the import duties. That was the point I wanted to get across as well.
No, the tariffs will be imposed upon us for the fish coming into this country.
That's on the fishing side of things.
Yes.
But of general goods, Europe sells twice as much to us as we to them.
But you're presuming it will just carry on doing so, rather than selling more into markets where there aren't any tariffs, i.e. for each individual European Union member, the other 26 European Union members.
So on that basis, that if things carried on, we would make a profit on the import duties.
Yes, but people aren't going to carry on. exporting fish into this country if there are tariffs. They're going to look for markets where there aren't any tariffs, i.e. the other 26 countries that will retain membership, Marvin.
Well, that's your viewpoint. And
well, what would you do? If it was you, if you were in business, and at the moment there are 27 countries into which you can sell without tariffs, and tomorrow there'll be 26, what would you do with the country where it's suddenly going to be more expensive to do business? Would you just carry on as you are, or would you look to the other markets where it will continue to be frictionless?
But I don't think Europe, on the fish side, sells that much fish to us.
You just said it sells twice as much as we sell to them.
No, on general merchandise and things like that.
Well, I mean, then I have to correct you. If with your permission, we are a net importer of fish. We import more than we export, Marvin.
Okay, and I'd spend a lot of time going around Scotland, and all the fishing ports around there. You've got Spanish trucks, and they're just waiting for the trawlers to come in. It gets loaded on the trucks, and it goes down to Spain. And I've only seen a TV program, but Heathrow sells millions of pounds of smoked salmon to the whole world.
Yes.
And
well, not Heathrow exactly. I don't think that's a
no. That's where it gets.
It's the airport where the planes take off from. Anyway, we did just gloss over. I mean, you rang in to make a point that was contingent upon the belief that we're a net exporter of fish. You've now discovered that we're a net importer of fish. I think in 2019, I think we imported, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, 721,000 tonnes of sea fish with a value of £3,457 million. We exported, I think, 400, off the top of my head, 452,000 tonnes with a value of £2,004 million. So your premise, when you kindly rang in, was that you support no deal because we import more fish than because we export more fish than we import. That's categorically untrue. So presumably you've now changed your mind.
On the fish side of things, but on the general merchandise of selling cars...
You rang in to talk about fish. Your exact phrase, I think, was that we'll have our waters back.
Yes.
That's got nothing to do with cars, has it?
No. And the second point I made was that Europe sells twice as much to us. Okay, it wasn't made exactly clear that I was talking about general merchandise.
Well, no, because you said fish.
We started off with fish.
Yes. That's all right. So you're still confident that we're going to be better off then?
That would be my viewpoint.
Excellent. Oh, good. Let's hope you're right, Marvin. I think we would all join in that fervent hope. If only there'd been perhaps a scintilla of evidence to support your optimism, then we could be even more supportive of your view. Anne's in Berkhamsted. Anne, what are you most looking forward to?
It's the Working Time Directive. So there are companies and organisations all over this land who have to record that people work on average 48 hours or less over a 13-week period.
Yes.
It's costing us all a fortune to do that, to record it.
Right.
And we're all sidestepping it because we either belong to other organisations so we can get our hours up, or we just ignore the whole thing. And actually, the whole legislation is a farce.
Okay, I'm just going to dig down into it a little bit further. And the world may have changed since I signed an exemption to the Working Time Directive when I was a newspaper journalist. So what is it that you want to be able to do that you can't currently do?
I want to be able to work 2 hours or 100 hours, and that's my choice and not legislation.
Who is currently stopping you from doing that?
The European legislation on the Working Time Directive.
But I know lots of people putting in loads and most often lorry drivers, oddly. So what is it that you do? What line of work are you in?
Well, I'm in all sorts of lines of work. I'm a retired ex-director from the council.
And you want to be free to work 100 hours a week doing what?
Well, anything I want to do.
I know, but you've retired. So in terms of what would you want to be doing with those 100 hours?
So one of the things that I do is recovery management. So when an organisation is failing.
Yes.
And one of the things that it needs is manpower and my effort. And
yes, but I suppose what I mean is when you hit 49 hours, who is it that comes around and locks you in a box?
Nobody at all at the moment until I do that more than 48 hours a week over a 13-week period.
Yeah, and then who turns up and tells you off? Because I know loads of people that are doing that.
there are lots of people who are doing it. But if you wanted, so for example, if I'm in the care industry,
I prefer the bat.
So I'm in the care. No, it's nothing to do with bats. I'm in the care industry, and I have some people with some really complex, challenging behaviour, and I need to increase my staffing levels considerably. And somebody will say, "I'm sorry, but I'm over my 48 hours." And actually, that's not acceptable.
Oh well, no, hang on. You've changed your tune now. So what you're saying is that you want people to be forced to work more than 48 hours, not to have
No, I want to be able for people to say.
But what if they don't want to work more than 48 hours?
I'm happy to put the hours in, but I can't at the moment.
But no, they can at the moment. We've just established
and
that.
The other thing is the bureaucracy, the recording. So I have staff sitting there.
Well, you did have before you retired.
Yes.
Yes.
But they're doing it now.
Yes.
People just sitting.
Well, they're keeping a record of how many hours they've worked.
How many hours people have worked.
Yes.
So
and if you don't keep that record, how would you know how much to pay them?
Well, the point is that they're actually not just saying how many hours they're working, but on average if they're going over the 48-hour week. So this week I might do 56, and next week
because that's a protection for workers in that no employer has the right to order you to work more than 48 hours a week, but you are perfectly... But no, hang on, I need to finish this because one of us doesn't understand it. Yes, you do. You have the right to do whatever you want. Your employer doesn't have the right to order you to do more than you want to.
No,
and they've taken 48. They've taken 48 hours as the cut-off point. But anyway, if you were suddenly allowed to work 100 hours a week, talk us through what you do with them briefly.
Well, in my previous role, I probably did 16 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Oh, and you didn't get arrested?
No, I didn't get arrested.
Well, was this prior to our European Union membership? This was prior to 2003, was it?
Yes.
It was.
So the point is that when I needed to put the hours in, I could. And then when I needed to go off for coffee because of stress levels, I could.
OK, and now you can't. That's just not true, but have a wonderful day. Alison's in Perth. Alison, what would you like to say?
Well, I'm just phoning in regards to why the teachers should go back to work, I guess.
Yes.
The reason I say this is because they are a public service like firemen, nurses. So therefore, they have to give the public the service. So nurses have gone back to work. Regardless of not having the correct PPE, they've still had to go back to work, and they've complained, but they've still had to maintain a service.
So you're arguing, essentially, that two wrongs would make a right in this case?
I guess I am, in a way. I think that...
Yeah. Well, at least you're honest.
I think that what I'm saying...
So you know what you need to do now? You need to explain to the teachers listening why they should trust their safety and the safety of all our children to the same politicians that presided over the carnage in the care homes.
No, I get what you're saying, but we've all taken risks. We're all taking risks.
No, but you need to explain to them why they should trust these politicians.
Because as a public servant, they are the ones that you do trust to tell you what's going on. Because I work in the hospital, and we have what PPE we should wear. So I trust that they're taking care of me by giving me the PPE that they say is necessary to do the work that I do.
Yes, but lots and lots of doctors and nurses aren't getting the PPE that they want. So your happy experience doesn't negate theirs. It's completely independent of theirs. So I am going to labour the point slightly that they are saying we want to go back to work as long as we feel safe. I'm not trusting these people to tell me that I'm safe because they've just presided over carnage in our care homes and, of course, also presided over an appalling lack of PPE for much, but not all, of the NHS. So, really, it's a question of trust. Why should they trust these politicians? Boris Johnson misled the House on Wednesday about the situation in care homes, and now you're saying teachers should believe him when he tells them they'll be OK. I just want to know what you're seeing that they're missing.
Who else should they trust? If you're saying that the country has to get back into some
But that's a recipe for this. I mean, who else should they trust? So you're not allowed to not trust the Prime Minister.
I can't do it with you.
Well, we've already established that you're arguing two wrongs make a right. So I'm happy to be quiet and let you carry on.
Yeah, I just think that if by them going back to work creates another virus, so to speak, we are ready for that.
Well, it'd be a second spike. I'm sorry to interrupt, but at the moment there's no fear of another virus, is there?
Definitely interrupt me. Well, we don't know because they say it mutates, so therefore something may come back. But we are equipped for that now because we did build in the Excel hospital that could cater for so many people. So that's good. We're ready for that. So sometimes the risk has to be taken, and let's see what can be done. Remember, children are still at school. What data have they got for that? Have we had a lot of deaths because the children that are at school, admittedly in small units, but what is the data for that? We have to take.
Well, you need to know that before you can form the opinion that you've already formed.
Then nothing will ever go back to normal. At one stage, we were saying that going on the computer is bad for children. Now, all they do is go on the computer. So, at one stage, we say that taking education away from children just for 2 days before a holiday is bad for their education, and now we're taking it away completely.
No, they're still getting taught.
Well, I know
most of them are still. I mean, every teacher that's rung in is still working.
Exactly. People are still working, but in order to get it back to normal, we want normality. Children need to be socialising. They need to be together. I have a daughter.
A pandemic isn't normality, is it? I mean, I do want you to have one more go at just telling them why they should trust these politicians. Because we can't leave it at because they're the only politicians we've got, can we? Because then that's like a carte blanche for them to do what... Go on.
It's going round and round. We're just going round like a hamster in a wheel, because who are we trusting? We trust ourselves. I trust that I live in the world with nicer people that have my interests at heart, more than people that want to do me harm. So if I have voted, remember I have a vote, I voted for these people, and if they've got things wrong, sometimes I don't... It's acceptable in some ways, because we're dealing with something new. So
one more go, and I'm sorry for not being clear enough, but the thing I really want you to do is talk to a teacher who wants to go back to school, is already working, is being demonised in the media, and just simply doesn't trust this government, these politicians, because they've handled it catastrophically so far. Why should that teacher trust these politicians today? Just in a couple of sentences, tell them what they're missing.
I can't. All I'm going to say is, whoever you voted...
Go on, please, have a go. Please have a go, because it's the whole point of today's programme.
Had we voted in Labour, would we be getting a better service? Who knows?
And I mean, you know, come on the Rovers, but let's talk about things that are actually vaguely relevant. Adrian, what are you going to say to the teacher who doesn't trust these people because of what they've done over the last 2 months?
I said it, James. They have to dig inside of themselves. Who did they vote for? If you voted for something, you must have done your background. You know what they're about. You know what they...
So if you voted for Boris Johnson, you must have known he'd go on holiday at the outbreak of a pandemic.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we got there in the end, Adrian, and I think we can both agree on that. Oh dear. So 2 wrongs do make a right, and if you voted for Boris Johnson, then frankly you should have known he'd go on holiday at the outbreak of a pandemic and mislead the House of Commons about the state of care homes. The question, of course, is if you knew that he was the kind of person to go on holiday at the beginning of a pandemic and to mislead the House about the carnage in our care homes, then why the hell would you have voted for him?
Lee is in Croydon. Lee, what would you like to say?
I just wanted to speak about the march and that tomorrow from the the football hooligan side of it, like they're saying they're all thugs and all this. But I mean, I'll put it clear, I think they're just sick of what's going on here. Everyone has jumped on this thing that's been in America, and like the statues and all that, what they've done, it's gone a bit too far in a lot of people's eyes around London anyway.
Yes.
I think tomorrow, if they have cancelled the march, I think it's for the best, because I do think there possibly is going to be a bit of trouble up there if they did start trying to attack more statues.
Well, I've seen some tweets this morning from people who are clearly hoping for trouble and violence. How does someone like me tell the difference between somebody who really wants violence and somebody who, perhaps like Andy, I don't know if you heard that call, is more than happy to meet it out, but probably would rather... I don't know whether he would rather not or not, but how do we tell the difference between the people who are up for a fight and the people who are acting out of purity and principle, Lee?
Well, I think the majority of working class people around London anyway, just normal builders, not always builders and that, but just normal people that have had it a bit hard in their life and just looking at what's going on here. And they've got to the point, it's becoming a bit of a joke. Well, not everyone is racist at all. I've got black friends, But some of these people that have done this stuff up there, to the police as well, attacking them. I've seen
But
videos.
Andy thought it was mostly middle class white kids that would have been responsible for the vandalism and the violence.
Yeah,
so,
all right. We'll talk about that. All right. Yeah, I agree with some of that.
But here we are talking about race again.
In a way, I am, because this is what a lot of it's going to. I was looking at a video on Twitter, I think it might have been yesterday, and there was some black kids that have been arrested.
Be careful, they've been arrested, so we can't talk about that. It's a live criminal case.
But that's what I'm still saying, though. It's still
No, and I'm saying don't talk about that, because it's a live criminal case, and you know, particularly from some of the constituencies that you describe, you know what happens when people disrupt criminal proceedings. You can end up in prison. So the question really, I mean, can I ask you a question? You promise not to get cross with me. What is it that you fear when you describe things going too far? What are you worried about?
It's putting a bigger divide where
between who?
White people, race.
No, but we've just established that most people on these marches are white, or at least loads of them are.
But they're not all white, are they? Come on. It's not.
No, but nor are your friends. Your friends aren't all white either, you said.
No, I've got some, but tomorrow it's going to be majority white people that's up there on the march, on the football.
So what is it you're worried about? What are you fearful of?
I'm not worried about anything. I just think it's going to.
So when you say it could go, it's going too far, or it will get out of hand. What will?
Well, it's going to be trouble, isn't there, between black and white people? It's what's coming.
Well, no, there's going to be trouble between. It's not going to be divided by race, is it? As we've just established, any more than your friendship group is. It's going to be divided by something else, which I tried to get to with Andy. But with you, I'm more interested. I'm more interested in you now. What are you? What are you cross about? What are you worried about?
I'm not worried about anything. I'm cross about all these statues and that are going to get took down. I think.
But they're not. They've been protected.
No, but the ones that the guys at like hospital and stuff that they're taking down. It's just.
Yeah.
It's been there for years. It's just.
It has been there for years, and we sent children up chimneys for years. But you wouldn't want to go back to that, would you?
No, not really. But I mean, it is just going. This is my opinion. It's going a bit too far, and I just think tomorrow.
No, I know you keep saying it's going a bit too far, and I keep saying what is.
Well, this Black Lives Matters.
It's going too far.
There's white people. But there's white people that have everyone's life matters. It ain't just black people, is it?
Well, that's what the movement is designed to achieve. It's to say Black Lives Matter as well. So stop killing us.
Yeah, who's saying it doesn't.
Well, the policing record in America makes it absolutely clear.
But I mean, we're not America. We're in.
No, but we're talking about where this started with George Floyd, and the records here. The records here also show. You see, now you and me are shouting at each other or talking over each other. I'm not. You think that when you say it, you mean we're spending too much time worrying about black people.
At the moment, yeah, because everything's been forgotten about coronavirus,
Yeah, but what were you planning on doing tomorrow? Looking into coronavirus and doing a bit of social distancing advice, or marching up to London for a fight?
Marching up to London tomorrow, definitely, because...
You see, but there it is, you see, in the same breath, claiming that coronavirus is what we should all be talking about. But
it's all been broken now, isn't it? Everyone's not social distancing. There ain't no more.
I am. Yeah.
But not everyone is.
No, that's the problem, Lee. You don't make it better by joining in with the people doing things wrong.
No, I agree with that as well. But then at the same time,
what are you going to be doing tomorrow?
Stopping anyone attacking any statues.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
How would you explain to your child why there was a statue in your town of celebrating a man who treated your people like animals?
I would just say it's part of history. That's what I would say. It ain't right, but it's history.
So why can't we take the statue down then if it's not right?
Because it was up there for a reason. It's been put up as a symbol,
children were up chimneys for a reason, but we managed to get rid of that, didn't we? So what is it about slavery? Why is slavery somehow not as bad as putting children up chimneys?
I'm not saying slavery is not bad. It is bad.
So why can't we take the statue down?
It's part of London that's been up there for years. I'm talking about the ones in London anyway, so...
Right. So because it's been there for ages, we have to leave it up there. And then how does anything ever change?
There is people, James, that don't want them to come down.
No, well, you're one of them.
I know. I'm not saying I'm not.
No,
But,
I'm just intrigued by what criteria you use for deciding.
And that last week, I think's wrong.
All right, Lee. I wish you well. Try to stay out of trouble, mate, and do bear in mind that if you are mixing with large numbers of people, then whoever you go home to will also be at risk.
Kyle's in Leeds. Kyle, what would you like to say?
I just want to say that there's an 99.5% survival rate, James, and I don't understand why making me feel like I have to take this vaccination when I'm going to survive regardless.
Yes, because you might pass it on to people who don't.
But if they've had the vaccination, then, James, then surely they'll be fine.
Well, how do they know, unless everybody has it?
But what's the problem if they've had it?
There's no problem, mate. You're just not allowed in the pub, that's all.
But why not? I don't understand why I'm being ostracised for not wanting something that's only been tested for 3 months, 4 months.
Well, you're not. You're just not being allowed into places where you might give coronavirus to people.
I mean, ostracised, but if they've had the vaccine, then why am I not allowed in?
Well, because they've had the vaccine and you haven't.
Yeah, but if they're vaccinated, then they don't have to worry then, do they, James?
No, but you're not allowed into the pub because you haven't had the vaccine. Because if they let you in, Kyle, they'll have to let everybody else who hasn't had the vaccine in as well, and you'll all infect each other.
Yeah, but I'm perfectly.
Okay, let me put it this way: it's to protect people who aren't clever enough to protect themselves. So you'd be in the pub without the vaccine, and under your rules, there'd be some. If you stop talking, I'll explain your misunderstanding, Kyle, and with great gratitude, actually, for the opportunity to explain this to people like you. If you're allowed into the pub without a vaccine, then so is him, and so is he, and so is he, and so is her, and so is she, and you could all infect each other, you see?
Yeah.
And then you'd all need treatment, and some of you would be intubated, and some of you would go into intensive care, and some of you would die. So it's to protect people who aren't clever enough to understand how they can protect themselves.
That's 0.5% of us.
Where are you getting that number from, Kyle?
Not because of 99.5% survival rate.
Yes, but where are you getting that number from?
Where are you getting the death rate from, James?
I haven't mentioned the death rate.
No, but I'm getting the same.
Where from, Kyle?
You're getting from. I'm getting it from when I'm doing my research online.
Yes, but where, mate? Because you can't say I'm getting it from the internet, can you? You can buy moon cheese on the internet. Where exactly are you getting this 99.5% survival rate?
Because it's a fact that it's a 99.5%.
Doesn't become a fact when you keep saying it. Just refer me to the source.
Where's your? What is it that this virus is 90% successful?
I haven't said that. I haven't used any numbers yet on the Kyle, I haven't said a number yet on the programme today. So let's just concentrate on where you're getting your facts from.
From the research that I'm doing, James.
Yes, research where? Into what?
I take the phone away from my ear, but to go on to the articles that I've read.
Well, just name. No, you must have gone, oh, crikey, that looks good. That's come from Harvard. Or, blimey, that's from the Office of National Statistics. Or that's from the World Health Organisation.
I'll say it's from the World Health. I can't pinpoint right where I've got my...
And that is why, Kyle, we need to protect you from yourself, you see, which is what a vaccine would do. So you can stay at home if you want, doing your research, but if you want to move into a public space where you might infect other people, I'm afraid you'll be prevented from doing so. Do you understand why now?
But I can go out and mix with the public and do what I want. And be fine with the 99.5% survival rate.
But you keep saying this number. You keep saying, what if I said now it's got a 100% death rate? And you said, where are you getting that number from? And I said, my research. I'm getting it from my research. No, only the people that have had it. Well, that's all a conspiracy, you see, Kyle, because I saw it on Facebook, and there are a lot of people who are actually dead who are still walking around.
Is there?
Yes. I researched it on the internet. They're like zombies, and because they've got these chips in them, Bill Gates is controlling them with a PlayStation 4 controller. Seriously. Just have the vaccine, man. Dave's in Epsom. Dave, what would you like to say?
Oh, good morning to you. Just to confirm, I'm a Brexiteer.
Okay, that's why you said good morning, I think, isn't it? 20 to 1 in the afternoon.
Morning.
Yeah. Carry on.
Well, okay.
It's always a good morning. Always a good morning, except when it's not.
Yeah, except for when you've been holding suit the morning. There you go. No, not to worry.
That's all right, mate.
I don't believe...
We can all tell the time.
I don't believe in a federal Europe.
Okay.
Hence, I voted for Brexit.
What does federal mean?
Too much control by Brussels.
No, doesn't. What do you mean when you use the word federal?
Fine. Well, if that's where it's the direction of it's going.
No, but I just want to know what you think the word means.
Okay. Well, being controlled by a central point.
No. It means the precise opposites of that, actually. It means a sharing of control. But you tell me again what you think it means.
Right, federal Europe.
Yes.
I don't believe in.
No, but what does federal mean?
I know all the leaders have come together, like, for example, this budget.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you again, what do you think federal means?
Centralised, too much centralised direction.
Right. Well, if I told you it doesn't mean that, how long would it take you to wonder whether you're... No, you wouldn't? Not going to cut any mustard?
No.
No? Don't know what it means, adamant that I don't like it.
And you mentioned
Yes?
fisheries that everyone keeps talking about.
They do, yeah. I wish they'd stop.
Do you believe that Europe is correct to try to keep the status quo?
Do I believe that Europe is correct to try to keep the status quo? I don't really understand the question, Dave, sorry.
Right, they want to maintain the common fisheries policy.
Well, they will maintain the common fisheries policy. We just won't be in it anymore.
Yes, they can maintain that.
So they've
but
got
not
control. They've got control over that.
Not with our waters.
Not with our waters.
My question is,
yes?
Why does Norway have an arrangement with the EU and they keep 85% and they do annual
because that's what they've negotiated, and Norway remains. Norway remains in. I always get confused here. You'll tell me. Is it the customs union or the single market that they're still in?
Customs union.
And we're not. You see. So there's your answer.
Yes.
Next question.
Next question. So we're right to seek. We are.
But you just compared us to Norway when we've left the customs union, so that one doesn't float, does it? To keep the maritime analogies rolling.
We carry on negotiating.
No, we can't, though, can we? Because we leave at the end of this month.
There is no reason.
Yes.
If we've left as a sovereign country.
Yes. What do you think sovereign means?
We control our waters. They're our waters.
Yes.
They shouldn't be decided by the EU.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
This type of fishery, I think it's a silly argument regarding fishery.
Well, then why are you making it?
The EU, well, because you mentioned it when the...
Not in this call, I didn't. In this call, I just want to know what federal means.
So you don't want to discuss my reason why I...
Well, you just said you didn't want to discuss fish.
I believe that the EU is getting too centralised.
Yeah, I know you do, mate, but there's no evidence to support that. So let's conclude with a classic, shall we, Dave? What are you most looking forward to about not being in the EU anymore? Presuming that you're not actually one of the 12,000 people who currently work on our fishing fleets.
Rules and regulations.
And now we go for the absolute jackpot. Which rule are you most looking forward to not having to obey anymore, Dave?
Everything.
Yeah, but just give me one.
We decide.
Just give me one, Dave.
We decide
one rule, Dave.
As a country.
Dave, one rule.
Any
yeah, I know, any rule. Yeah, exactly.
Whether it's labour, whether it's trading standards.
Yeah, exactly. So go on, give me one. What trading standard? Go. Which one?
Doesn't matter which one. All of them.
Yeah, but just name one.
We're a leader in the world, right?
Are we?
We don't need the EU to tell us how to do things.
So what do they tell us? What is the rule you're most looking forward to not having to obey anymore?
All of them.
Yeah, so just name one.
Self-decision.
I know. So it'd be really easy to... I know what the problem is here. There's so much... Corporation tax is inflicted on us by the European Union.
No.
So that's not it then. So what?
They took Ireland to court.
Yeah?
Their corporation tax.
Right.
To get 13 billion, and they lost.
And Ireland is desperate to stay in the European Union, so that's a fairly rubbish example. What's the rule?
With a no deal, if you watch RTE, they're desperate for a deal. Because of the effect of a no deal.
That's right, Dave. And they say the only people it'll be worse for than Ireland... Dave, the only people it'll be worse for than Ireland... is the UK.
Speak to the Germans,
are you going to name a rule?
Dutch, speak to the Belgians, speak to the Italians.
That's a bit federal. That's a bit federal, isn't it? Listening to all the other people in the European Union.
I'm talking about the people. They want a deal.
Right, but you don't.
Right? No, I said I hope we get a deal.
Right.
But it's got to be what we want to achieve, not just what they want to achieve.
And before you go, can you name one rule that you are looking forward to not having to... obey anymore?
All of them.
Yeah, can you name one though? It's not listen, I'll say it again. Can you name one rule that you don't like?
refugees.
Refugees is a rule.
That's why Hungary and Poland is.
But they're still in the EU.
Refugees in.
So it's
They're
the
in
refugees.
EU,
There we go, mate. We got there in the end. We got there in the end. And you know, when I asked you whether Norway was,
How did you get there?
Well, it's always about refugees with people like you.
I ain't worried about. I'm not worried about immigration.
Oh.
But we set.
So it's just the really desperate foreigners you don't want coming in here.
Right.
What?
Everyone always, particularly people like yourself, who
Yes.
haven't got a clue.
I know, Dave, because I'm so stupid. I thought Norway was in the single market.
But the problem, what I said,
Dave, mate, I think I can only give. But
we're in the same position negotiating.
all right, mate.
right?
You look
And
after
they
yourself, Dave. Just in case you embarrass yourself anywhere else later today, it's the single market that Norway is in. So the answer to your question of why we can't have a similar fishing arrangement to them. Oh, I give up.
Paul is in Ashford. What would you like to say?
Hiya. The Labour Party is, I believe, is the most democratic political party in Great Britain.
Go on.
And the policies of the leader are decided by the membership. Now, to get to those policies, you have to take one view or another view, and within the Labour Party,
yes.
there are those views. Now that's seen as infighting, but do you know what? That's the most healthiest debate going. And that produces...
It's not a debate about policies, Paul.
Decided by its members.
It's not a debate
now,
about policies, is it? So think about the manifesto as a product, okay?
Yeah, but the
Hang
leader of the Labour Party
hang on a minute.
should not be blamed for the Labour Party policies.
No, but he's not being blamed for the policies, is he? He's been blamed because many people found the policies quite persuasive and attractive, albeit that they were offered up in a sort of weird, messy conglomeration of claim and counterclaim. Let's imagine that the Labour Party's manifesto was the mother of all manifestos, Paul. Come with me on a journey to a place where the Labour Party's manifesto was absolutely magnificent, a thing of unalloyed beauty, a veritable departure from 100 years of neoliberalism and consensus politics and a brave new dawn of equality and liberalism. The problem is the bloke selling it was a muppet.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jeremy was toxic. I wanted, and during that leadership time, I wanted John McDonnell to be selling those policies. I think if we'd have had John McDonnell, there would have been a different result.
Why?
But
why? Just in terms of plausibility and I think you're probably right. Things would have gone better under John McDonnell because he is oddly more ideological than Jeremy Corbyn, but less stubborn and more human, I think. Except now I'm alienating a significant swathe of my listenership who still can't see Jeremy Corbyn as anything other than a messiah.
Christopher is in Hillingdon. Christopher, how has it come to this?
Good morning, James.
Hello, mate.
No, I'm not really a big fan of you, James, really, to be honest with you.
I don't think that's the most important thing at the moment, Christopher.
I agree with some of your points, but to be honest with you, percentage-wise, I don't agree with a lot of it, because every day...
That's not true, is it? That's not true, you see, because I've talked up Rishi Sunak, I've praised Matt Hancock, I've said today don't get distracted by the question of whether or not the tests are done. So Rishi Sunak has played an absolute blinder. Christopher, tell me why you are not worried about us having potentially the highest death rate in the world. Just tell me that. I don't want to talk about me.
I am completely worried. I'm really...
And yet here you are on national radio talking about the presenter, not the figures.
Yeah, I know because you do actually come.
Because in your mind, I'm more important than the death rate, Christopher. I'm afraid, odd though it is for someone with an ego as overdeveloped as mine, I can't countenance a conversation about me at the moment. I am a flea upon the massive beast of Britain, and you, probably because you spend too much time on Twitter, here you are thinking that the most important conversation you can have today as the United Kingdom heads for the highest death toll potentially on the planet, here you are talking about me. Jog on, mate. Elizabeth is in Worcester Park. Elizabeth, what would you like to say?
I've got no ideological
problem with the mask or scientific, and I'm happy to wear one. My auntie's friend made me some lovely ones when I wear them to Tesco, and that's fine. I'm happy to do that. But my thought about what is the worst that could happen is the economy, because just from a practical, very selfish point of view, I am not going to go to John Lewis for 2 hours to spend a few £100 when I'm wearing a mask. It's not comfortable. It will ruin my experience. So from a practical point of view, the worst thing that could happen... Could you do it
online?
That's the thing. I don't want to do it online. I'm not an advocate for John Lewis specifically, but 10 shops are already closing over the country, which really does affect the high street.
But they haven't been open. They're not closing because people are staying away because they feel a bit weird about masks. They're closing because they haven't been open.
Yeah, but
And now they are open, and you've got an opportunity to help them, and you're turning down that opportunity because masks make you feel uncomfortable.
I did say, I mean, I'm being practical. I'm saying quite selfishly, I would not be able to go into John Lewis for 2 hours with a mask on. It would not be that pleasurable.
Could you go in for? Why don't you go in 6 times for 20 minutes?
Yes, well, I like to look at the things and I like to browse. So I've got no.
All right, go in 4 times for half an hour then. I mean, if you care about the economy that much, surely you should be at the front of the queue to get into the shops.
I just don't think that's practical, but I agree with the
what's
masks,
impractical about that? Here's a shop, here's a door, you want to put some money in the till, walk through the door, put on your mask, do some shopping.
Because I don't think it aligns with normal people's shopping behaviour, so I'm just trying to answer the question.
Well, no, you have noticed that these are not normal times.
Yeah, but you're saying what's the worst could happen, so I'm
But the worst that could happen is that you prioritise temporary discomfort over economic collapse.
I'm not going to practically, and I don't think many people will go into John Lewis for a few hours with a mask on because it's sweating, uncomfortable, or other large department
Okay,
stores.
well, it's on the list, sweat and discomfort.
Okay.
As opposed to I mean, pretty much every scientific advisor in the country saying this will help keep people alive.
Of course, yeah, and I would, and if I did.
So that's
go into
on
John
one
Lewis,
side of the scales.
I would wear it. So I'm totally with you on the fact that people should be wearing them.
Have you tried it? Because I had one on for an hour this morning, and after 5 minutes, you stopped noticing.
I went to Tesco the other day, and I was in there, unfortunately, for more than 20 minutes, and I didn't like it. I was sweaty and horrible. I was pleased to wear it. Of course, I will wear it, but it isn't pleasant.
Let's not fall out. You're not making a great deal of sense.
I think I'm answering your question. What's the worst that could happen? And
you won't go. The worst that can happen is that you won't go to John Lewis.
The worst that can happen is that a lot of people won't go to John Lewis, and that they will suffer even more, as will other shops, and the economy could be damaged. That's the only possible reason I can find for not.
Well, yeah, but you're not just speculating on other people's conduct. You're describing your own. I would say, if you're that worried about John Lewis. Also, if you work there, and you know, I've had a long family history of working in department stores. The people that work there might have some sort of right to protection, but your discomfort is on the list. Rich is in Maidstone. Rich, what would you like to say?
You're gonna shout at me, James. You're gonna shout at me. We've spoken about this before.
And you still think whatever you thought last time, do you?
Unfortunately, I do. Okay. And I just want to go through a couple of the points, just so, because you're asking the questions, just so it clarifies it for you to give, a little bit of understanding of how we or others that feel similarly to me,
the questions I'm asking. The questions I'm asking today
is why. Why would someone or who?
Well, how, who, and why?
Yeah.
How, who, and why. So take your time.
Well, for me personally, do you mind if I just answer a couple of things that the previous caller said? The scientists.
Yes, I do mind. I want you to address the questions I'm asking. All right, unless you're a similarly qualified scientist and you want to indulge in a bit of that would be ridiculous. So who, why, and how then, Rich?
Right. So the people behind this, as we've always known, are the people that you're talking about are the governments, leaders.
So, but sorry, we need to go back further. What are they behind?
Well, if you
just in your own words, this must be easy. You've rung me twice now, so when I say what are you talking about, you must be able to tell me.
It's the background part of it.
I don't need background. Just tell me what the plan is.
Well, basically, the plan is to digitise everything that we have, get rid of the physical side of human interaction.
What does that mean, Rich?
Well, this is why I wanted to give you some background, James. So, as we know, at the end of the day, people have been pushing for a cashless society, out of convenience, That's how it first started with the cashless
I'm only on till
society.
1 o'clock. I need to know.
No, I'm going to bang it out for you in 5 minutes, trust me.
Well,
right?
I maybe have to be quicker than
So
that.
people wanted a cashless society, then that didn't kind of go down the way people would like it to. The governments, the credit card companies and stuff that pumped millions into the
Who
advertising
says it
system.
hasn't gone well?
Well, because people are fighting back. People like Martin Lewis as well has come out and said, no, we need cash.
Yes, of course we
physical
need
hard
some cash. And Martin is very, very conscious of people misrepresenting him in the public space.
No,
He's had an absolute nightmare on social media. So can you point me to one area where a desire to eradicate cash completely has somehow been frustrated by society and left them, in your words, bankers, governments and others, deeply unhappy? Where on earth are you getting that from?
Right, because it links into something else.
No, I don't want to know what else it links into. I want you to point me towards the place where you can prove that governments, banks and credit card companies are furious that we still use cash, Rich.
Well, why would there be...
No, that's a question. I want an answer, my friend.
Okay. All right. So, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to give that to you right this second.
And here we are. First question.
Because we're stuck on time, like you said. But I wanted to.
All right, I'll take that back. You can have as long as you want. Just point me towards one place right now where you can prove that banks, governments, and credit card companies are deeply frustrated by their failure to eradicate the use of cash, and then we can move on to how that leads to your conviction that the coronavirus situation is some sort of hoax. So just talk me through the money, Rich.
Right, because like I've said to you, the monetary side of things is about control, James.
No. You need to point me to the proof.
No, but you have to allow me to link it so that your listeners can make an informed decision of what I'm saying as well.
If you can answer my question, you can link whatever you want. So just point me towards one source, one piece of evidence that shows me that banks, governments and credit card companies have been frustrated by their failure to remove cash from society. Just point me towards that, then you can link whatever you want.
I wouldn't call it that, it's a frustration or provable frustration at the end of the day, because I'm not a banker, I'm not at the high level. But you have to ask the question, why would there be such a push? Why would there be such a push, so much money invested into something which they want to fail? They wouldn't. They'd want it to work, obviously. So that's why they're pumping so much money into it.
I have no idea what you're talking about now, which at least makes two of us.
No, but if you allow me to link it,
but you can't keep saying if you allow me to link it, you see, because you're talking gibberish. Where is your evidence that anybody sought to remove cash from the whole world?
Well, there has been trials done in America, where university campuses have only used chip and pin systems.
Yeah, we do it as well because it's much easier than carrying money around.
There you go, exactly.
Yeah, you got me there. You got me there, Rich.
No, but James, listen.
Rich, I'm listening.
How is it always sold to someone? It's always out of convenience. It's always easier for you to go to a cashless society because you can have a chip on your card or your phone.
No. It's easier for me to use my card to pay for my coffee in the morning. It doesn't sign me up for a cashless society. So that's why I keep asking you the same question. And if you just listen to it,
I've heard
you can't.
I've heard the question. I just can't.
Right. So then point me towards one place where you derive your conviction that there is a global drive towards a cashless society led by banks and governments. Just point me towards one place, the seed from which the tree of your certainty has sprouted. Just tell me where you got it from.
Many interviews from Mr. Bill Gates.
Oh, mate, that's just nonsense, though.
No, but it's not, because you said that the gentleman
Rich,
before said something
I've got to go to the news now, Rich. Jamie is in St. Bridges in Wales. Jamie, what would you like to say?
James, I've got a name for your cafe, mate. It should be James O'Crian.
That doesn't quite work as a food temptation, but you crack on.
The amount of moaning you do.
Oh, I see, you're being funny. Yes, no, that's funny, yeah. Good one.
The amount of moaning you since Brexit.
Yeah, I know.
Is crazy.
What have I been wrong about?
Well, let's not get into that.
No, let's absolutely get into that, mate. What have I been wrong about?
Well, what you're on about is what you're talking about now.
No, we're not talking about now. We're talking about all the moaning since Brexit. What have I been wrong about?
Where do you want me to start?
Wherever you want, Jamie.
Well, you blatantly wrong about the doom and gloom that everyone, the desperation everyone would be feeling.
But we both know that you're already floundering and you haven't even started yet. So give me something I've been wrong about.
Since Brexit, there's a matter that you're wrong about.
Go on.
The way the government has been able to instill a bit of happiness in the country since Brexit. Which
Right.
I think
But what have I been wrong about? What have I been wrong about?
But I remember listening before Brexit and
You didn't know, did
doom
you?
and gloom
Before Brexit, mate, I barely had a view. So since Brexit, all the moaning I've been doing, what have I been wrong about, champ? Or do you just want to do another funny joke before you go?
Well,
no? Come on, Jamie, mate, you're better than this. What have I been wrong about?
you wanted to know why. You wanted to know what you're going to do with your baristas. Yeah,
but you missed that chance by being a plum. John's in Sunderland. Go on, John.
Hi, James.
Hello, mate.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. What would you like to say?
Hi, mate. Everything's just going crazy, isn't it?
Yes.
I just believe that the vaccine is just a tool to control everybody.
Why do they want to control you?
Because the world is overpopulated and the need to reduce the population on the planet.
Right.
And COVID-19 is just the beginning.
Why are they picking on you?
It's not just me, it's everybody, and you'll see.
So who
it's global.
survives? Who gets to survive?
The strongest and the richest.
But the vaccine won't know how rich I am, will it?
No, but if they've created this virus...
What if I get the vaccine on a Friday when I'm poor, and then I win the lottery on the Saturday, so I'm rich? Will I be killed on the Sunday or not?
It's not to do with you. It's the
well, it is, because you just said the rich people will be saved, and so I'm just wondering what would happen if I got the vaccine when I was poor, and then I became rich. Would the chip be able to tell that I'd won the lottery, do you think?
I'm not interested really in the chip. I don't believe that they can inject a chip in there.
Well, how are they going to control us all then?
Because they'll control you by saying that if you don't take this vaccine, you'll be restricted. You can't travel, you can't work, you can't go in shops.
Let's do this again, actually. I don't know if you've got a lot on tomorrow. Martin's in Romford. Martin, what would you like to say?
Hello there. Nice to speak to you. Oh. Nice to speak to you. All I'd like to say is that this agreement's never going to happen. It's all going to be rushed through. It's going to be a daft deal. But
hang on, you can't not happen and get rushed through.
What's going to happen is they're never going to make a decision. The Europeans.
Well, then it's not going to get rushed through, is it?
Don't want us to leave. That's why it's.
We've already left.
When we voted to get out.
We've already left.
Yeah, when we voted to get out on that Friday, we should have left on the Monday. Took 4 years of quibbling.
Right.
At the end of the day, this country is going to make mistakes, but at least our own elected idiots are going to do it.
Right.
When they make mistakes, we can boot them out. But all these rules they've done over all the years...
So we haven't had a general election since 1973.
It's all been...
Martin, you have to listen at some point, Martin. We have had general elections since 1973, you know.
I know we have.
Yeah, well, you can boot out politicians in exactly the same way after Brexit as you can before. I know what you're saying, and you have to listen a bit. So, is the deal not going to happen, or is it going to be rushed through?
It's basically...
Yes.
The deal's not going to happen.
Right, so nothing's going to get rushed through then?
Or if there is a decision...
Yes.
It's just going to be a daft deal on both.
So it isn't going to happen, or it is?
I don't think it will happen. No,
but it might?
It's not going to happen.
So then it can't be rushed through?
Well, what I'm saying to you is that it's all left. It's all left to the last minute because the Europeans, they are desperate. They're desperate to trade with us.
Right.
They're desperate because we're
where are you?
More money out of us than we do them.
Where are you getting? Yes, but you're speaking about 27 countries as opposed to one. Do you see?
Yeah.
So the only reason you can point to a deficit, if you like, with the EU is because there's 27 countries. So you add up 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 27.
Right. But I
Do you
feel
see?
the end of the day.
Yeah.
The end of the day.
Go on.
What we should have left on the Monday when we
Yeah, I know
voted out on the Friday.
you keep saying that. You keep saying that, Martin. But what about customs? If we'd left on the Monday, what do you think would have happened at our ports?
There is going to be problems to start with, but in the long run, this country will be so much better.
Yeah?
We make all our own decisions.
What are you most looking
wrong,
forward to?
Right or wrong.
What are you most looking forward to?
To all make our own decisions, whether they're right or wrong, rather some little tiny Principality of Luxembourg telling us what to do.
When did they do that?
Years.
When did they do that? I missed that.
Many years.
Yeah, go on. When did they do that? What did they tell us to do?
What to do.
What did they tell us to do that we didn't want to do?
We can make our own mistakes.
I can't wait, mate.
And we can make our own good decisions.
Before you go, what was the worst thing Luxembourg made us do?
I'm just saying.
I know. You're telling me how awful it is, but what was the worst rule they made?
Why has it took him 4 years to get out of it?
I don't know, mate. I just want to know. It's not a trick question. What was the very worst thing that those pesky principalities...
They shouldn't have been telling us to do anything.
You're damn right they shouldn't. So what did they tell us to do? What did they tell us to do, Martin? What rules did they make?
We run our lives.
What did they tell us to do?
It should have been trade only. Now,
I know.
they're still discussing about whether they can fish in our waters.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Never happened.
Before you go, what was the worst thing that Luxembourg made us do?
I don't care. In the end of the day, I don't care what decisions they made. They shouldn't be making any decisions.
So what decisions did they make for us?
At the end of the day, we voted to get out.
We did.
All this nonsense in the media about was lied to. A lot of people just wanted to take back control.
Of what?
That's all. Our own decisions.
What decisions?
Our own decisions.
What decisions?
Trade, where we,
What?
Everything.
But for example?
Decisions. Our local government and the government. Not some unelected nobody in Luxembourg.
No, I know.
It's one of the best things this country's ever done.
I couldn't agree more. Down with Luxembourg. Before you go, the worst thing that the pesky Principality of Luxembourg made us do?
Principality of Luxembourg.
Down with them and all who sail in them. But what's the worst thing?
They're still arguing now. We want to fish in your waters.
I know.
We want to do this. We want to do
unbelievable.
that. We should just trade only. That's it.
Yeah.
WTO. We'll just trade with them.
Yeah.
At least we ain't got to abide by all the rules. All these unelected
do you know the WTO?
Tell us what to do.
The WTO has really strict rules.
It's the best thing that's happened.
I know. It's great. I can't wait. But I just need to tell you one thing before you go.
The EU will crumble.
Before you go. Oh, the EU's going to crumble.
It's going to crumble.
It's going to crumble. Before you go, are you familiar with the WTO rules?
I don't. It probably will cost us more money. It will cost us more money.
I'll take that as a no. Chris has been in touch to say they just won't let us do what we voted for, which was get out. We're already out. Beginning to see why these people don't ring me up anymore. Are you? And finally, why don't you pack up and move to France or Germany? You would be happier there as you're anti-British. All right. No prizes for guessing how our friend spelt your. But the short answer is, in my case, I probably could if I wanted to, but I like it here, even though people like you are making it much worse than it was or needs to be. But you voted to abolish freedom of movement, Brains.
Peter's in Bury. Peter, what would you like to say?
I heard Nick on the phone, and he took Sharma, really did, to the cleaners. And I followed Brexit. I'm quite a strong Tory at the moment.
Sure.
And I wasn't aware that Australia deal and no deal were the same.
Right, let me pause you there. And we're not going to fall out, right? But the second thing you said completely destroys the validity of the first thing you said. You said, I follow Brexit. You obviously... I nearly swore then. You obviously don't. If you didn't realise that Australia-style deal meant no deal. When you say you follow Brexit, you still follow the people who persuaded you it was a good idea.
Well, yes, I do.
Yeah.
I've listened to the other side as well.
Well, you can't have done because it's been. I mean, it's like the Pope being a Catholic, Australia being the same as no deal.
Yeah, obviously you're a lot cleverer than me.
It's nothing to do with being clever.
No, but do you agree there must be a lot of people think like me?
I don't know. There must be, because it must work. So, I mean, listen, blame is a big word. Whose fault is it that you failed to understand something that I consider to be really, really straightforward, obvious and simple?
Well, I accept that obviously it's the government's fault and the people put it forward. Maybe I didn't listen hard enough to it, but I'm sure there's a lot of people like me.
Well, I applaud your honesty. I'm sure there are. Yeah. And now you know it means exactly the same as no flipping deal at all. How are you feeling about the whole plan and the people in charge?
Well, the whole thing is just going difficult at the moment. But I've always wanted to get out of the European market because I want to be a sovereign state. But I do agree.
What do you think that means? Let's not do this. What do you think sovereign means?
Well, I think we can make our own laws.
But how do you do that if you're in a trade negotiation? If you're going to agree to some of the stuff you don't want in order to get it over the line with some of the stuff that you do want, what happens to sovereignty in that context?
No, but once we get out, we can make our own laws and do exactly what we want.
Of course we can't. Not when it comes to trading with foreign countries. We can't do exactly what we want at all. We have to abide by the trading treaties that we have in place with them, and signing that treaty involves what you would have to acknowledge. Forgive me, seriously forgive me. If you understood what sovereignty means, you'd realise that there's no such thing in the context that you've just described.
Well,
that's the next penny drop moment. You finally realise that no deal means the same as Australia deal, and you're about to realise that sovereignty means signing up to things that are less than what you would get if you were 100% in charge of what you can get.
Yeah, but James, obviously a lot of people did agree with me because 17.so million people voted for Brexit.
They voted for people like Owen Paterson, who said only a madman would leave the market. People like Daniel Hannan, who said nobody's talking about leaving the single market. People like Michael Gove, who said no deal is not what we campaign for. It's never been on the cards at all. People like Nigel Farage, who said, why can't we be like Norway? How now, Brown Cow, after 4 years, can you still be coming out with this stuff, my friend? Everything has been proved wrong. They're even patronising you today. Today they've said, it's an Australia-style deal, and you've gone, that sounds good. And then they've gone, it's semantics. They've pulled down your pants, and you're still defending them.
Yeah, no, I didn't sound that sounds good. I was not aware. Okay, you're going to have a go at me. And
I'm not going to have a go at you. No, fair play to you for coming and taking your medicine. But I don't understand how you can not be. How often do you listen to me? Do you just think I've lied or that I'm thick or I've got it wrong for 4 years?
Actually, James, I hardly listen to you at all.
There you go. There's the problem. And that's why you've ended up not knowing what's going on under your own nose, Peter. You silly sausage. If you'd listened to me, you wouldn't be on national radio now saying, oh, my God, I've just been conned by the people I actually voted for.
I didn't actually say that at all. But, I accept various things that you say. But, the fact is a lot of people voted for Brexit. It's as simple as that by referendum.
Mate. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens in the next few months, won't we?
Well, it's 6 weeks. Lorry parks in Kent, Portaloos, all down the side of the M20. People like you, decent, honest people like you, still thinking that Australia-style deal means something. What does it take?
Well, no, it means a no deal. Basically, they're saying Australian deal because it sounds a lot softer than a no deal. That's what Sharma said.
And that's why they're patronising you, Pete.
Mike's in Beverley. Mike, what have we got?
It's about the vaping regulations that the EU introduced in May, a year and a half ago.
Right, this might well actually make the list. It's not an area I know much about, so what have they done and what is the problem?
Hi, James.
Yes.
Am I through to you now?
Live on the radio, Michael.
Oh, great. Okay.
Excellent. So vaping.
What happened was that they wanted to introduce some tobacco legislation, and the vaping regulation is actually listed under tobacco. It's got nothing to do with tobacco. And the bulk of the legislation, the idea, it brought the rest of the EU nearer to British standards on tobacco, i.e. cigarettes, cigars, pipe smoking, etc.
Yeah.
But some of the EU commissioners had a bee in the bonnet about vaping, so they tagged on regulations about vaping.
Yeah.
Basically, the size, the amount that you could buy in a packet, in a bottle, if you like.
Yeah.
Was from unlimited to 10 ml, which doubled the price of the vaping liquid itself.
Right.
They also introduced a regulation.
I mean, that's how much you can buy in one go, is it? There's nothing stopping you going next door and buying another load.
No, but it's doubled the price. No, you can still buy 100 10 ml bottles.
Right.
But you couldn't buy a litre bottle, which you could before, and the price doubled.
Okay.
Because you're buying it in 10ml bottles.
Well, do you know, I am in complete ignorance on this issue. So if we needed to put it in an easily digestible nutshell, you want heat-not-burn tobacco products to be cheaper.
Yes, I didn't see... There was no logic. There was also talk at the time, because one of my friends...
But it's still bad for you, isn't it? I mean, you can still get addicted to this.
Well, you can do, yes. Yeah. But there was another proposal that cigarettes only be sold in packs with the idea of reducing smoking. So that theory in itself is a bit weird. But what was more annoying to me, because I work outside in dusty environments, was they reduced the size of the tank that you could use from unlimited. But obviously, you can't walk.
You've lost me now. We're not talking about. Are we still talking about vaping?
Vaping, yeah. They reduced the size of the tank to 2 mil.
Right.
Well, when you prime a tank, you need 1 mil in it before it'll work. So you have to top it up every mil, whereas I've got my friends to bring me back a 10 mil tank from America, so I fill it up in the morning, don't have to open the tank on a dusty building site to keep in little bits.
All right. Do you know, I like this. This works. So cheaper heat-not-burn tobacco products, and you can buy them in bulk.
Yeah, and you
I mean, the public health, I don't want to...
Like the rest of the world can do, but can I just make one quick point, James, on this?
I just want to clarify one thing first. There is the health and safety argument that government should be discouraging people from using tobacco products as well, isn't there? Just for balance.
Yes, I agree. The 4 bits of legislation that were great had this vape tagged onto. Now, Britain argued against the vape regulations, but overall the package was beneficial, so they ended up voting for it because the 4 good bits outweighed the 1 bad bit.
Well, that's law. That's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's
but now, but now we'll be able to still obey the good bits and opt out of the bad bit.
Yeah, that would
it's brilliant. You should get an OBE for this. Has Sajid Javid have you got his number? This is actually, I think, if I've understood you and if you're across the facts, I'm certainly not in a position to establish that. Then, yeah, cheaper non-burn tobacco products for vapors.
Yeah, and we opposed it as a country. But what I would like to say is 3 of my friends are lobbyists in Brussels, and they work in the Commission. And
I'm late for the break. Yeah, go on quickly.
And their quick point is. And I'm a big Remainer, but quick point is that every bit of not every bit, some bits
of legislation... I said quickly, I'm late for the break, come on. Oh, man, I haven't got time to take John in. But, John, just say the bit about me being racist against the indigenous people of this country, will you? Because I haven't heard that for years.
No, you're clever talking on the end of the phone, the way you talk.
Yeah.
You won't listen to nobody.
No, I'm listening to you. Tell me that I'm racist.
You just said to a fella, your world at 48 and his world at 38, 1,000,000 miles apart.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, my world and your world don't ever come together. And you know why he won by 80?
But here you are talking to me.
Because he won by 80. No, you can't be cocky with me. I'm
not. I'm just pointing out that we've come together. You're now talking to me.
When you keep on saying about all the people that run the... You make me laugh. You don't know the facts of life, my friend.
Well, go on, educate me, John.
Learn them.
Educate me.
What?
I said educate me.
Educate, yeah. You couldn't get educated because you've got a vision one way.
Yeah, go on. Tell me what I need to know.
Any other way, but the way you want to see it.
Tell me what I need to know.
Unfortunately, I live in Bethnal Green. I go down Bethnal Green Road.
Yes.
Bethnal Green. Where the academy was, where you keep talking about this school. It used to be Danesford School. But all my mates used to go. I look at it now, I don't even recognise the place. And all the people I used to know have all run away.
Are we talking about decorations or architecture?
Architects.
What do you mean you don't recognise your own street?
I don't recognise walking up and down. I do not know anyone here.
Okay.
I don't know a soul here anymore.
Have you tried being Have you tried being friendlier?
Whitechapel. What?
Have you tried being friendlier?
Be friendly.
Because you sound quite rude and angry to me.
Listen, rude and angry.
There's an echo. There's an echo on the line. Is there an echo at your end?
What?
Is there an echo at your end?
No.
What?
No.
Who?
So you're cocky. You're too cocky for your own good.
Oh, that's enough cocky,
you're
Tom.
a right flesh, no good slag.
That's me, mate.
And you get away with it because you can keep demeaning people on the end of the phone.
Who's demeaning you today, John?
You demean everybody.
How am I demeaning you, John?
Older people, you talk about the older people as if they're all lumps of...
No, but the problem is I don't, John.
You run them down.
Mate, you're on the radio calling someone a slag, claiming that he's rude.
But you're claiming I'm the rude one, John.
Well, I don't give a monkey if you think I'm rude. I'm a real person. I'm not one of the...
Well, I'm not a robot, John. Anyway, good luck recognising things today when you go out. All right, I wish you well. All right, I really do. I'm sorry you're so angry. I wish you could work out why, but there are sort of slight limits on how much rope I'm allowed to hang out while we're 2 minutes late for the news. Jim in Hounslow is here to kick us off. What have we got, Jim?
Hi, James. Yeah, well, my view is that we should look at every bit of legislation that's been passed since 2008, really. And go through it. And,
so I think he'll probably need a little bit more specifics than that, won't he?
Well, maybe. But,
so let's help him out with some specifics.
An example for you would be, say, the energy calculation on washing machines.
Yes.
It's not fit for purpose.
But talk us through it. I mean, to be fair, everything that's been passed since 2008, and I say, give me the highlights, and you say energy on washing machines.
I mean, there are thousands, but this is just an example. It's the way they're written, you know.
Yes. Are you in the washing? Are you in the washing machine business?
No, I'm not. It's an example that I was challenged by a friend to give this answer to you know, that you're asking as well, and so I had to look up and read some European legislation. But
you had to look it up after you'd said that it was a good idea.
No, I'll give you one that I work in. So I work in construction.
No, can we just finish off the washing machine stuff first?
Okay.
Because I haven't heard it from anybody in the industry.
Okay.
An objection to it. So what is the problem?
Well, my objection to that is that, or the objection to that I've got is the calculation they have for it is very prescriptive.
Yes.
And it's easy to fudge these calculations.
Okay.
It's a very long calculation. It's set in one formula. And you can play with the formula.
Is this a variation on the hairdryer Hoover story?
Yes, it's that kind of thing. Yeah,
so, I mean, when I said don't ring me and talk about hairdryers or Hoovers, parenthetically, we could have included washing machines, unless you're in the industry. So, I mean, the question was, how is it going to improve your life or mine? So let's do it from that angle.
Let me pick one.
Let's do it from that angle. How is it going to improve your life or mine?
Well, I can tell you from a business point of view,
yes.
How it makes the business better.
But you're not in the washing machine business, are you?
No, but I could tell you about something that I am involved in. So,
well, then why are we talking about washing machines?
Well, because that's one as well, and you didn't want to talk about it. So
no, I do. I want you to tell me how changing this regulation is going to make your life or my life better.
Well, the whole economy works better if the regulations are well written and they're practical. Most of the European regulations are very unpractical and over the top.
I mean, forgive me, but that should make it really, really easy for you to answer my questions then. So how is my life going to be improved by reviewing washing machine legislation?
Well, so that maybe not directly your life.
Well, okay, your life then.
Immediately. So if everyone's working very inefficiently, there's been less money for everybody. I'm just saying the rules that the European Union right.
Yes, and I'm asking you to prove it, I suppose, politely.
Okay, so for example, I'll give you a better example.
That was supposed to be your best.
No, it was just an example, and there's hundreds of thousands of examples. I think.
Yeah, so when you say there's hundreds and thousands, and I say give me one, I think the presumption is that you'll reach for a strong one.
Yeah, and I can give you another. Well, you keep telling me that it's not the area of industry I work in.
No, I just said how will it improve our lives? Washing machines, and you don't know, which is fine. I don't know either, so I probably wouldn't have phoned you live on the radio to say it, but here we are. So let's move on to something else.
The problem with the European Union is the bureaucracy it creates.
No, I've heard all of this, but that's not what Sajid Javid is asking. He's asking which bureaucracy, bits of this bureaucracy, you'd like to get rid of. So we can't put washing machines on the list. I think we both agreed on that, because you haven't got a clue how it would improve anything. So what are we going to put? What are we going to put on the list?
So another thing involved in recently is bats and bat surveys and all that kind of stuff.
Bats?
Yeah.
So how is that going to improve your life or mine?
Well, basically, for example...
Bats as in the flying mammals that sleep upside down?
The price of houses, okay? You're concerned about the price of houses.
So we're not talking about bats anymore?
Yeah, we are, but you have to let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
If you had more houses on the market, since that user to build, then the price of houses would be lower and there'd be more houses available for everybody. So one of the things that holds up development on building sites is the fact that you have to go through ridiculous procedures for checking for bats and protecting the bats, and you can't do things that would actually prevent the bats coming in. You can't do.
Okay, so I'm going to put that down. So we tell Sajid Javid we want less protections for bats.
Not protections, but just relevant protections, because.
So we don't want. Okay. So
around,
right. So which bit of the current legislation would you change first? Do you think, with regard to the bats?
Well, for bats, you've got to go through it. I mean, the American legislation is pretty good. It's much better quality than ours, than the European one. So I would start with something like the American legislation.
So what are the big differences? What are the big differences there?
I'm not an expert on American. I just know I've talked to the guys.
So washing machines, but you can't tell me why, and bats, but you can't tell me why. Is there anything that you do understand that you could put on this list?
Well, I do. I mean, I work on the practical end of these things, so I'm not a lawyer. But all these things need to be drafted by lawyers, but they need to be done on a practical basis.
No. But you can't say that they need to be drafted by lawyers until you've explained why. And all you've done so far is say the words washing machines and bats. So what is the problem at the moment with the current legislation in ways that everybody would understand? And that's why, in many ways, it's good that you're not involved in the washing machine industry or indeed in bat surveys, because you've got an understanding of it and you can just share it with us in layman's terms, can't you?
So in bat surveys, basically you've got to protect the bats, which is a reasonable thing to do, and I agree with that.
Right, so which bit don't you agree with then?
The way the legislation's written is that every bat, whether it needs to be protected or not.
I'm going to put you out. I'm going to put you out your misery now, Tim. I think. I mean, with the greatest of respect, I for one wonderful moment, I thought that you were having a bit of fun and joking around, but oh my God, you're serious.
Peter is in Ealing.
I mean, it's basically a question about the way you do your presentation. I mean, you're meant to ask, at least in my opinion, open questions to the audience, so the audience can ring in and give them your views. Yeah. However, when I listen to you, rarely...
do you know what, mate? I think today hungry children are more important than your debut as a radio critic. So let's start with the question I'm asking. Who are our own, do you think, when we talk about helping our own first?
Down there. The audience of what I've just heard, I would believe that the majority of people that would want to ring into your station and actually say what they believe or think, rightly or wrongly, are afraid to ring in because you've already set them up. Anybody who...
Well, you tell me what you think, Pete, okay?
It's going to be demonised.
But my opinion is that we should help hungry children.
Yeah, but you don't put it in that context. You say,
well, I just did, Pete. Just for you.
If you don't agree with me, you are...
We should help hungry children. Tell me why you disagree with that.
I don't disagree. I didn't say I did disagree, but I disagree with...
Pete, mate, there's a lot of people listening to the programme, and if you want to post a review of the programme, I'm happy to retweet it. But in the meantime, can you have a crack at the questions that I'm asking?
That they cannot ask you a straight question or voice their...
Go on, then, ask me a straight question.
Demonised by you.
Ask me a straight question, Pete.
They don't agree with your viewpoint.
Someone's feeling a bit ashamed today, aren't they, Pete?
Not me.
Yes, Pete.
I've got nothing to be ashamed about. I haven't...
Then why are you ringing up, complaining about how I've made you feel? Why have you rung up to complain about how I've made you feel, Pete?
You haven't made me feel anything.
So what are you complaining about?
It's frustrated that you push an agenda and don't...
Frustrated that I hold up the mirror, and there you are, looking in the mirror and seeing a man who doesn't want to help hungry children.
So... Am I naive? You're far from naive. You're extremely manipulative.
You've been on for 4 minutes, Pete.
Allow the audience
and you're still talking about me.
To ring in and disagree with you.
Well, go on then, Pete. Disagree.
You spent the last 4 to 5 minutes...
Pete, disagree. Disagree, Pete.
Well, great. Disagree with me. That's what conversation should be about. Not picking people up and not allowing them to say what they think.
I'm literally begging you to say what you think.
I think many things. I'm open-minded, but I don't think...
Yes, but on the specific issue that we're talking about today, Pete, what is it you want to say?
What? Should we let hungry children go hungry?
Should the government help hungry children in the summer holidays?
Yes, if they're in need.
Well, hunger is need, right?
Is that okay?
Yes, so what exactly is it you're complaining about again?
Your presentation.
Right. Even though you agree with me.
Sorry, this isn't your argument, is it?
Yes, it is. I desperately want the government to help hungry children.
The audience, for anybody who wanted to
But you agree with
an
me.
alternative viewpoint to yours.
But you don't have an alternative viewpoint, so how can you speak for people who do if you agree with me?
I beg your pardon?
How can you speak for people who have an alternative viewpoint if you don't, Pete? You just agreed with me.
But you've already, if anybody was to ring in and say that they didn't...
Well, do it then. Try it. Try it. Come on, Pete. Come on, Pete. Come on, Pete. Tell the truth.
What is the truth, James?
Well, the truth is you don't ring in to a radio presenter you agree with to complain. No, but it's yours, mate. You just said that the government should help.
If these children are seriously in need, yes. But...
And that judgment is made during term time.
I also think...
Yeah, go on.
A lot of it, as your caller who was from the school just recently said, or inferred, that it isn't the children, it is the children that are hungry, but the reason the children are hungry is poor parenting in a lot of cases.
So should we don't feed the ones with poor don't feed the children with poor parents then? Is that what you're saying?
No, teach the parents
so who do we feed?
how to look after their own children.
How are we going to pay for that?
Well, there's no point just throwing...
And how do we feed the children while we're teaching the parents, Pete?
Listen, you should set up, or what it should be, social programs that actually teach parents. You can't have a society where people continually have children for
But we're talking, Nadine and Marcus Rashford, we're talking about people who will...
those children. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at the situation, it will continue to perpetuate itself if people have more and more children because they choose. I'm not saying everybody, but if some people
Pete, why are you talking about these people?
Rather than actually work,
here we go.
Spend their money not on their children, but on all the other stuff that they actually want. And
there we go, mate. You see, we got there in the end.
Stop.
Yes, we got there in the end, didn't we? You don't think the children of parents on benefits should get help with their food?
Well, that's
and you
it.
feel utterly ashamed of yourself, and that's why you rung in to complain about the question, Pete. I could hardly listen more, Pete.
You push your agenda. And
what's my agenda, Pete?
What the audience thinks. You only like your own voice.
Well, I'm trying to listen to yours. Briefly, what's my agenda, Pete?
Well, what I said children that do require food should receive it. But it cannot be a perpetual situation. The parents of these children should learn to put the children first and look after their children, not themselves.
Yes, and what's my agenda?
We've created a situation, a society, where that's it. It's just basically you can choose to work or not to work. Now, don't tell me.
And this story is about people who do work and still can't afford to feed their children. No, Pete, she wasn't, mate.
What she said.
Pete, she wasn't.
Not that the children are hungry, but the reason
didn't say that, Pete.
Is because
she said I work in a school and still run out of money before the end of the month, Pete.
Yeah,
I don't know what call you were listening to, but before you go, Pete, genuinely, I get this, Pete. You're going to have to listen to me at some point. I get this quite a lot, and I'm fascinated to know what the word means. What is my agenda, mate?
You push an agenda all the time.
Yeah, what is it?
That's the reason why the majority of times I can't listen to you.
So what's my agenda, Pete?
Well, you're trying to draw me into this, and it's an extremely complicated situation.
You just literally said that I have an agenda. What is it?
Say,
Pete, please, it's 10:43. We've only got 2 minutes. What is my agenda?
Okay. You push a left-wing agenda.
What does that mean, Pete?
Open borders.
We're talking about school dinners, Pete. What's my agenda on school dinners?
Yeah, but you set the agenda when you started the conversation. You didn't.
What is it? What is my agenda, Pete?
Please call in and say what you thought. You set
what's my agenda?
Your audience,
Pete, mate, please. What's my agenda? 10:44. What's my agenda? Or my narrative? Because I hear these words a lot, and I'm yet to meet anyone who can tell me what they mean.
Your agenda in every line that you say.
Well, then it'll be really easy for you to explain what it is, won't it? Come on.
You have a very, very left-wing agenda.
As you just keep saying that, what does it mean?
Anybody who disagrees with you.
I love being disagreed with, Pete. This is going to be my favourite call of the day. What is my agenda?
You have a very left-wing
agenda. What is my agenda, Pete?
You can't
on
sum
school
up
dinners.
your agenda in like 2 or 3 words, James. Can
well, take 30.
Apart from you are dangerously manipulative with your...
What's my agenda? Come on, Pete, you can do it.
I think I'm done with you, James. Thank you very
Pete,
much.
Pete, mate. Oh, I was really looking forward to finding out what my agenda is. Anyway, there's Pete, who doesn't think that hungry school children should just be fed first, and then we can look at some of the systemic problems behind their hunger second. And that is what I do. If you don't like what you see in the mirror, Pete, I do actually suggest, well, you already told me what you do, and I heartily approve. And we'll start almost as far away from Manchester as possible, which is all to the good in Basildon. Lee, what do you reckon? Why did he pull the plug over £5 million?
Well, he didn't pull the plug over £5 million. I don't know your maths, but they was asking for 65 million. So
Boris Johnson imposed tougher corona. Front page of the Times. Mr. Johnson pulled the plug on talks with Andy Burnham over the scale of the funding, despite the two sides being separated by only £5 million.
Okay, so why is it Boris's fault? Why didn't Andy Burnham take the 60 million then?
Just asking a question. Why did Boris... Well, Andy Burnham has explained that he considers that the bare minimum to support businesses. But you already know this. The question I'm asking you isn't... It's not complicated. Why has the Prime Minister pulled the plug over £5 million? In your view, and I won't challenge it, I just want to hear it.
Well, because you can't keep giving away money. How are we going to pay it back?
Right,
all it's going to be
then I bring in the bridge, don't I? The £52 million on the bridge.
Okay, then. Okay, well, let's talk about all politicians. Let's talk about your mate Sadiq, shall we?
No, because we're talking about Boris Johnson and money, specifically.
Oh, so it's just when it suits you, is it?
No, it's when Boris Johnson is Prime Minister and we're discussing public expenditure. So, again, why do you think he pulled the plug?
Public expenditure is TfL.
Why do you think... Lee, why are you doing this? It's a simple question. I want to know your view.
I never get through, James, and this is the first time I've managed to get through in months.
This might be why, Lee, because you're not talking you're talking gibberish. Here's the question again, all right? Why do you, Lee, you who can't get through, why do you think Boris Johnson pulled the plug on Greater Manchester over £5 million when everything on his record tells us A, that he's happy giving away £3.6 billion before the last general election, largely to seats that were considered likely wins for the Conservatives, and B, when we know from his record as Mayor of London that he's very happy to throw public money after vanity projects, but not after protecting businesses in the North West. I'm not even going to offer a view on whether you're right or wrong. I just want to know what your view is. Why do you think he did this?
Well, all right, my view is then, I'll put myself in Boris' shoes, I think 60 million's enough.
Yes, so why did he pull the plug?
Well, because Andy Burnham wanted to keep giving it and be seen as some sort of hero.
So for £5 million?
If you want me to answer, James, then let me talk.
Of course I will.
All that's happened is, Andy Burnham's mugged himself off because he tried giving it.
Right.
Boris has slapped him down, and now he's got his £22 million back.
Yes, so why did Boris slap him down?
Because he thought that he was above the law.
Pardon?
Because this Tier 3 thing, I believe, has been brought into law. So you have to abide by them rules, otherwise you're breaking the law of this country. Andy Burnham seemed to think that he was above that and said, no, we're not going to do that.
Andy Burnham said 2 days ago that whatever happened with the financial negotiations, of course they would go into Tier 3 when ordered to do so by the government, Lee. Now, again, that's a fact, not a view, and I appreciate you're very aggrieved. Hang on, you insisted that I didn't interrupt you. You can't challenge what I've just said. It's a matter of record. I understand you're very emotional about not often getting through to the programme, but you will know if you listen to it that we deal with facts, and what you just said is factually untrue. So I'll give you one more go at the question. Why do you think Boris Johnson has slapped down Andy Burnham over £5 million that he insists and explains repeatedly is the bare minimum of what is needed to keep Manchester businesses viable while they are compelled to close?
Well, as I said, I put myself in Boris's shoes. He might think 60 million's enough. We can't afford any more. I don't know the finances.
And there we are, Lee. You haven't got a clue. And that's fine. There's no shame in that. But why have we wasted 6 minutes of my listeners' time for you to get to the point where you say, I don't know, James?
No, I just said that Well, it's obviously thought that 60 million was enough.
And then you said,
Burnham
I don't
wants
know.
5 million.
Then you said, I don't know.
No, what I'm saying is,
And
I
the
don't know
invitation,
the finances
the
of
invitation, stay there, Lee, listen to this, mate.
I'm listening.
We would obviously have to accept that decision. In the end, it's the government's prerogative.
So here you are on the radio saying that Andy Burnham had stated the polar opposite of what you just heard, and you still feel sort of empowered to talk.
And when did he say? Sorry, I never heard that, James. I heard him
That's what I mean. So here you are on the national radio telling everybody what he said when he never said it.
I didn't know that.
Well,
Right,
so you
enough.
don't know. So you don't know what Andy Burnham had.
I'm big enough to admit
Why are you
that.
shouting
If I
at
make a
me?
mistake, I'll admit it.
Yes. So we'll get back to what the contribution to to the programme has been, and perhaps for you something to mull over on why you apparently struggle to get through on a regular basis. You haven't got a clue what Andy Burnham has said. You haven't got a clue what you're talking about, and you haven't got a clue why Boris Johnson. And you haven't. Hey, you hate being interrupted, Lee. Play the game, and you haven't got a clue, as you just said, why Boris Johnson has slapped down Andy Burnham. Your phrase, not mine. Over £5 million.
Because where does it end?
And that's why I admire your honesty. Where does it end, Lee? Where does it end?
Steve's in Northampton to cheer us up a bit. Steve, what have you got?
How about
Yes.
cheaper electric bikes for all your listeners, James?
Well, yeah, OK. How's that going to work?
Well, there's a tariff, an EU tariff on all bikes from China, all electric bikes from China.
Yes.
Of between 30 to 50%, which got slapped on in 2018.
Right.
And I am a manufacturer of electric bikes.
Are you?
So I had to
where is
relocate
your
all my-
manufacturing plant?
Taiwan.
Taiwan, yes.
It would have been China, but
Yeah.
now it's going to be Taiwan.
OK.
And I pay a 6% tariff to buy the bikes from Taiwan.
And if we'd have to have a free trade agreement with China for this to work, wouldn't we?
We would. Well, technically, as we speak now, there shouldn't really be any tariffs on the bikes. Should be a 0% tariff because if we renegotiated it, there's a 0% tariff on if I'm going to buy a bike from Italy. But unfortunately, the bikes cost more from Europe than because of labour costs.
Yes, I know. I understand that, and I suppose people working in manufacturing in Europe will be less excited by this plan. But
this is true.
I just want to be 100% clear on what I understand from what you're saying, because we don't have a free trade agreement with China. So if we opted out, tariffs would still apply.
Well, no, technically, if the tariff is an EU tariff,
yes.
If we're not part of the rules of an EU tariff, then on the 31st of January, we should have had a 0%
No, because
tariff on e-bike.
you'd fall under most favoured nation status under WTO rules, wouldn't you?
And what would the tariff on that be? What do you think?
You're the one that makes them, I don't know.
Is it true? Well, all I know is at the minute I'm paying 6%.
Yeah, and all I know is that if we don't have any trade agreements at all in place with a country, then WTO tariffs apply.
But the point that I'm trying to make is that the EU applied a tariff of 30 to 50% because the German electric bike and Dutch electric bike manufacturers consider that they were losing money to Chinese selling cheaper e-bikes into the EU.
Yes, and this is where
keep the prices up.
Yeah, no, and I get this, and this is actually a genuine area of departure, because I would say I quite want German and Dutch governments, and indeed British governments, to protect the jobs of British workers, but someone like Jacob Rees-Mogg would say, that's a protectionist racket. And for once, he'd sort of have a point, because you want to maximise your profits, as everybody in business does. It doesn't make you a robber baron or a master sweep, but you can't do that paying European wages.
No.
So you would rather pay Taiwanese wages, but sell into a European market.
But the
European Union has to protect that market, otherwise we'd never make anything.
But what it means that all your listeners who in London and elsewhere who want to buy an e-bike will have to pay more just for this reason.
Yes,
so but
WTO tariffs would apply. So we both need to do a bit of homework on how much they are.
But they're not 50 to 80%.
No, but nor is the tariff from Taiwan.
The tariff from Taiwan is 6%.
Yeah.
So if we
so that's what you're currently paying.
That's correct.
So what if WTO is more than that?
It's possible, but I don't think it is. But all I do know for definite, the EU tariff on a Chinese bike is between 30 to 80%.
Which is a heck of a lot.
Which is a heck of a lot.
Yes.
So basically, the EU...
But we are agreeing. We're agreeing that it's there to protect workers in European plants.
this is true. But the ultimate, but unfortunately, by doing that and protecting these workers, which is great, which is fantastic, it means that all those people in England have to pay more money for our products.
And this is. I'll put this on the list. Actually, I mean, we'll check on the WTO tariff situation, but it won't just be e-bikes. It will be. There's loads and loads of countries in the world that they put tariffs on because otherwise they would completely undercut all European manufacturing because they don't have the regulations in place, they don't have minimum wage legislation, they don't have workers' protections, they don't have health and safety legislation. So you can make an e-bike in China for buttons. What the European Union does when it introduces those tariffs is essentially say, well, it's not actually going to be viable for you to import these into our market. We have to make it unviable because protecting workers and minimum wage legislation and things like that is expensive.
James, if it was protecting British jobs, I mean, obviously we're protecting Dutch jobs and German jobs.
And there's the problem, you see, with a single market.
British jobs,
European
I might
jobs.
say that's acceptable.
But are there any factories in Britain doing this?
No, I'm trying to set one up.
Well, there you go, you see.
But I can't do it at the minute because the EU tariffs on the bikes I have to import makes them too expensive.
But the Germans and the Dutch are doing it, you said?
The Germans and the Dutch are doing it, but they want to keep the prices...
No, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just pointing out that cheap bikes at the cost of third world sweatshops is something that a lot of people would go for. But they need to know what it is they're going for and why these protections are in place. And with respect, you can talk about British jobs, but not in the context of a single market, because a single market legislates to protect everybody in that market. It is a historical coincidence or a legacy that there is not the manufacturing plant that you describe on these islands. But there is elsewhere in the European Union and the single market, which is why the legislation is in place. I'm sure we could, if we sat down and put our heads together, find an area of manufacturing that we do more than other countries do. And therefore we would benefit more from the single market's integrity. But that's the point, the integrity of the single market. But I'll put it down. I'll put down cheaper stuff made in countries with considerably poorer standards than us. And that, I mean, you might not realise it, but that puts you on the same page as Jacob Rees-Mogg, whether it's beef full of hormones that, you know, I wouldn't give it to my children, but obviously some certain type of politician wants people to be free to give it to their children, and cheap shoes for peasants. As long as the factories don't have to observe European or British standards, then they'll be able to knock the stuff out for a fraction of the price, and if we remove the tariffs, someone's going to make a killing. You are going to make a killing shipping it in from countries that don't live up to our expectations of health and safety, minimum wage legislation, workplace protections and workers' rights. James is in Newcastle, for example. James, what have you got?
I've got regulation on things like bananas and food that goes to waste because it's substandard in the EU's eyes. So not really, well, it's a budgetary issue, I don't know, but I think it's
So what happens to the food at the moment?
Well, it's wasted. If the banana's not the right shape, then it's...
No, you're joking me.
No, I'm serious.
No, you're not.
I am, because...
You rung in to talk about bendy bananas.
Yeah, well, it's better than bats and whatever else we've had, is it not?
No. It's actually worse, because I hadn't heard about bats and washing machines before, but the bananas line has been rubbished from pillar to post for the last 20 years.
Well, food wastage in general is not something that could...
Well, that's the bit I don't understand. Food. So you think that bananas that don't measure up to a certain standard all get thrown away into a big bin?
They're not sold, or, you know, carrots that are a strange shape aren't sold in the same packets as the ones that are...
They are in other European countries.
5 inches long.
They are in Greece and France.
Well, I think things are improving because they've started selling them, but they sold them as a separate section of wonky vegetables that they could always be mixed in together.
That had nothing to do with EU membership.
There is an EU regulation on bananas. I'm not kidding you. It's a real life thing.
Yeah. Mind how you go, mate. All right. Stay away from sharp things. Helen's in Dagenham. Helen, what's going on?
I've had so many cruises cancelled because of this.
Yes.
I've got enough credit. I'll soon be able to buy my own cruise ship.
Yes.
In September, I've got Spain booked.
Right.
In October, I have got Morocco booked. In November, I have got another Spain booked. And in December for Christmas, I have got a cruise. So I am... One of them will come up. I mean, I'll be honest, my husband's even booked Greenland for 2022.
So you're desperate. You're single-handedly revivifying the UK economy just with your holiday choices. But here's the thing. If you, let's say the cruise to Spain goes ahead and the quarantine is still in place and you get off the boat and you go into Spain, will you be quarantining for 2 weeks when you come back?
No.
But then I have to tell the police.
Oh, yeah, but your last caller, she wanted to dob somebody in. I mean, I don't know
What do you
a
think the
social
quarantine is for? Just in your own words, why do you think it's there?
James,
I'm going to insist that you answer the question.
I know it's to protect people.
From what? To protect people from what?
From COVID-19. It could
And
be
how many
swine
people
flu.
have
It
died?
could be
How many
anything.
people have died of COVID-19?
Do you know what
so
I'd like
far?
you to... You know the deaths of people from COVID-19? 3 of my friends, because I'm
Don't
older...
give me a weird right-wing conspiracy theory.
No.
Oh, good.
2 cancers and 1 heart condition, and on their death certificates it all said COVID-related. That was just 3 people I know have lost somebody during this period. They didn't have COVID, they weren't even tested. But...
That's simply not possible.
Okay, look, please look into that, because you're good at looking into it.
I'm looking into you at the moment. I want you. So you think that you don't need to quarantine because the risk has been exaggerated, as the death toll around the world. I know. Do you know what? I'm not going to fall out with you. I still like you, but this isn't funny anymore. I'm sorry. This is really irresponsible. Please take more care of yourself and your husband, because, you know, even if you don't care about anybody else, other people care about you. The rules are there for a reason. The quarantine is there for a reason. We're having a conversation about people who may fray around the edges. You're retired, right?
Oh, of course.
So you don't even need to go to work. You don't even need to go to work. I mean, it'd be easy to quarantine. Please, this isn't funny. This isn't like another radio phone-in topic where someone comes on a bit contrary and we all have a bit of a laugh and a bit of a ding-dong and then we agree to disagree. It's just really stupid and profoundly dangerous. Please have a little think.
Ken's in Wallington.
I'm afraid I do not believe any of the figures that come from the mouths of the politicians or those that represent the health industry.
Why not, Keith?
Because, James, they don't make any sense.
Well, okay. I don't think there's much to be gained from comparing their qualifications with mine or with yours. So let's move straight to the why of it. Why are they trying to lie to you?
Well, I think that's the question that none of us can answer. And
well, I can.
Go on,
but I'm interested in your answer.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know why.
Well, you have to know, because my answer is they're not lying. Your answer is yes, they are. So you're the only one that has to answer it.
You've use your 2 eyes.
Yes, go on.
That demonstrate that they're not telling the truth.
How?
If you'll give me some time to explain.
Well, I want the why of it first, if I may.
Yeah. You can't get the why, because none of us know.
But why do you think they're lying to you?
Why? You know, there's lots and lots of reasons.
Why do you think they're lying to you, Keith? That's all I want to know.
That's not the question. I don't know, James.
Right. But you're certain that they are?
The facts tell me that they are.
Yes.
The facts through my eyes tell me that they are.
Go on then, give me a couple.
Let me finish. The fact that in May...
I just said give me a couple. That's an invitation to you to speak.
In May, when everybody was on the beach and we were told there was going to be a major spike, nothing happened. We are told to stay indoors. I'm indoors at the moment.
But we weren't. There's been a second spike. We're in the middle of it now. The death rate.
James, what are we on a second
Keith,
spike
mate,
of?
let's not fall out, Keith.
This time of year, influenza, as let's go back to 2017 and let's talk facts. In 2017, during the winter period of flu, there were 50,713 extra deaths caused by influenza.
Yes.
Did we close it down?
Keith,
no. How many people die
Keith,
of COVID?
all right, let me try again.
No idea,
let me try again. So you're convinced that they're lying, but you don't know why, okay? I struggle to get past that point. The death rate this week has hit figures that we haven't seen since last May, so obviously all of the efforts that we made to get infection rates down over that period worked. The lockdown worked, otherwise the figures wouldn't have gone back up again when we came out of it. I've got 2 questions for you. One might upset you a bit, but
you won't upset me, James.
Oh, that's all right. Why do you think you're so angry about something you can't explain?
Why am I so angry? Because I feel that the government says one thing, that it wants to protect the economy, that it's excuse me, acting in our interests.
Yes.
It says one thing, but then does completely the opposite.
So, but that doesn't stand up to scrutiny because it says it wants to protect the economy and protect the population. So you've fallen into that thinking that it's 100% one way.
Can I ask you one question?
All right, not yet, no, because I'm still much more interested in what you think. I know what I think. The bolus I can't get past is this absolute certainty that they're lying to you without the beginnings of an idea why they would want to, and that for me is a big flaw in where you are. And what I feel as a fellow human is that I want to try and help you be less angry about something you can't articulate. So let's try again. Why would they want to lie to us? Just give me a theory.
I've got no theory.
Adam's in Liverpool. Adam, what's going on?
Hi, James. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate.
Good. So I just listened to the initial call, or the call just before that you had with that lady. She struggled really to get her point across.
I don't think she did, actually. Her point was fairly clear, that the vaccines are the work of Satan, and that Barack Obama, George Bush, Hillary Clinton and others are all in the Dark Lord's service.
Yeah, so I've got a starting point anyway, I think, based on all of this kind of subject matter. And the place that I want to start is there are elite think tanks, which I'm sure most people are aware of. We look at, like, the Bilderberg Group that were sort of founded.
Oh, boy, you're one of them. I'm so sorry, I didn't realise.
Say again? No, look, I think... let's take it another way. Let's look at it. I think...
Well, let me remind you what the phone-in's about today, OK?
I know what it's about.
Right, so talk to me about microchips in vaccines.
OK, so microchips in vaccines are not necessarily going to happen at this point in time with this vaccine. But, however, the vaccine can be used to create another mechanism potentially to take away people's freedoms and rights.
How does that work, mate?
Okay, well, let me explain. I can go into a bit more detail.
But just give me the idiot's version, because I'm not sure I'm up to the full fat.
No, you are.
Tell me how a microchip can be used to control me.
Okay, well, we're not talking specifically about microchips here. What we're talking about is maybe a health passport that would run alongside a vaccine. So once you've had the vaccine, you're then free.
You mean like we have at the doctors to tell us whether we've had our TB or our jabs?
Potentially, yeah.
And the doctor looks at it and says he hasn't had his jabs yet. I'll drop him a text, and then he goes in and gets his. So we've already got that.
Yes, but I mean yes, and you know, once you've had your test, which I've had multiple, so that I can work, and in Liverpool currently the testing is working well. I think it's healthy to have people tested quickly so they can get back to work and keep moving, and they don't have to isolate. But you're specifically drilling into nanobots and nanotechnology, which exist, but we're not saying that they're in this current vaccine. What we are saying is that they're going to use a health passport running alongside the vaccine to stop movement. That is potentially...
You have lost me, which could be my fault. As a general rule, if you mention the Bilderberg Group, I struggle to take you as seriously as perhaps I would like to.
Okay. So can we focus on that?
Let's not. Let's focus on what we're talking about, which is the idea that the vaccine is going to be a vessel used to inject me with something that they don't tell me about.
That's what you want me to focus on, because instantly...
Because this is a phone-in show presented by a phone-in host who set up the phone-in topic of vaccines containing... So it's not a conspiracy. There's no massed ranks of Satanists conspiring against you. I've asked a question live on the radio. You've rung in to answer it, Adam.
Okay.
So fill your boots.
The lady that I spoke to before, I'm guessing somebody who works for the producer, she's
a Satanist, mate. I wouldn't listen to anything that she says. So just talk to me about vaccines being used to inject me with things I don't know about.
It's a very, very difficult subject to discuss. I can't.
Well, you kind of knew that this was going to happen when you rang in to discuss it, right?
But I'm not saying.
You sound almost as if you're embarrassed by what you believe and you're wary of saying it out loud, having listened to Karen.
No, you're saying that. I'm not. What I actually came on to discuss was you generalised conspiracy theories in quite well this morning, and I felt that it was important to give you an understanding where the idea of Satanism comes on, where all these ideas come from, because that's really what's important. So you can have a better understanding of why people think this way.
Yes, go on.
Yeah. So there are elite think tanks, and those elite think tanks started. One of them
mate,
started.
you've done it again. You need to talk to me about the technology, not just the theories. So the idea that the vaccine...
There is a point to what I'm saying, and I am going to get to that point, but you have to let me just get to it rather than drilling into the vaccine and nanobots.
Well,
Can you do that?
No, of course not, because the conversation is about vaccines and nanobots, not about the Bilderberg group, Adam.
Okay, so the Bilderberg group was... I need to explain that to get my point across.
Mate, I'm a radio phone-in host. I was listening to people wang on about the Bilderberg group when you were still in short trousers. Just explain to me who wants to get something into my bloodstream using the camouflage of the vaccine. Who is my enemy? And don't say Satan.
Okay, no, so there are a group of people in this world that are hell-bent on population control. Do you agree with that to a certain point or not?
If you're talking about Bill Gates' belief that massively reducing infant mortality in parts of the world where...
Let's not specifically point out Bill Gates.
You see, every time you ask me a question and I start answering it, you have a problem, Adam.
No, I don't have a problem. Honestly,
you do. I know that people talk about population control with great ignorance as a result of comments that Bill Gates has made about seeking to reduce infant mortality. So, yes, I agree with you that there are a lot of very deluded and mistaken people out there who think that rich people want to reduce the total population of the world for their own nefarious ends. But for the final time, who wants to inject me with something secretly while pretending that it's actually a COVID-19 vaccine? Give me some names.
Well, that's not the reason I called on today.
Well, you have a great day. Roy is in Lewisham. Roy, go on.
Hi, how you doing, mate?
Yeah.
I do believe that with this virus,
yes,
they will put a chip in there so that when the chip is in the virus now and they give it to us, that chip will sync us to the 5G, and the latest is the 6G. I do really believe in that. And at the same
who told
time,
you, Roy? Where did you get your information from?
Oh, I investigated.
Yes, no, I know you did. And what did you find in your investigations? Where did they lead you?
I found that this virus is not really...
No. What did you find in the context of the results? But where did you find it? Where did your investigations lead you?
Well, internet, YouTube.
Yes, but that's like saying the world. So the people you trust, give me some names of the people you trust.
Who can I say now?
I don't know.
I tell you the truth, I don't really want to say any names.
Why not?
Right, I just want to talk about it.
Well, I know, but I have this obsession with evidence and facts, so I can't just let you talk about it. I have to know what the provenance is, what your source is, who you trust, who for you are trusted brokers of truth.
I trust in faith. And what I hear and what I see.
Yes, and who did you hear? Who did you hear or see explaining to you that the vaccine will contain a chip that syncs you with 5G? Who told you that?
Well, obviously, I look on YouTube and I look on the internet.
But who? Give me some, because I look on YouTube and I see pictures of, cats juggling. Who told you this?
Juggling. People who are interested in life.
For example?
Okay, David Icke.
Okay. And he thinks the Queen's a lizard.
And there is more. Well, yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
So you also think the Queen is a lizard, do you?
Why are we going down that road for?
Because you just mentioned a man who is most famous for believing that the Queen is a lizard.
But he doesn't just talk about the Queen. He talks about everything else around what's going on.
Yes, I know, but do you believe the Queen is a lizard?
No, I'm not going to answer that question.
Why
We're talking
not?
about the vaccine.
Okay.
We're talking about the vaccine.
Okay, but the person that you trust on this, I'm just giving you another example of his public pronouncements. In pursuit of establishing how trustworthy he might be, and you've said, "Oh no, don't talk about that," which suggests to me that you kind of
He talks about everything else, just like everybody else. It's not just about the Queen; it's about the world and what's going on.
Yeah.
So with this virus, and they'll put a chip in the virus, and we're all going to take this virus. Even
vaccine.
If we say no,
vaccine. They put a chip in the vaccine.
They're definitely going to send in the army so that we can take this.
Right.
Okay. A lot of us don't want to take it.
What if they don't, Roy? What if they don't send in the army? Then do you suddenly realise that this was all a load of rubbish, or do you come up with another explanation as to why it's all
they
true?
Will, because they want to control us.
Why do they want to control us, Roy? Why do they want to control us?
Because there's too many people in the world.
Right.
There's too many of us.
But that would involve killing us, not controlling us.
Well, of course, it's a part of controlling, and it's a part of killing us.
So they will inject you with they'll inject you with the chip in the vaccine that will sync you with 5G, and that will then kill you.
Of course, because once the chip,
what will you die of?
1 second.
What will you die of?
Once the chip is inside of you,
yes,
they can switch you off anytime.
Right. So it'll be like an on-off switch in our bloodstreams. I know, I'm ridiculous, aren't I? And just briefly...
You're not ridiculous. I don't mind you.
No, I know I'm
like
not.
That, because I do listen to you on the radio.
Well, I'm kind of glad to hear it. What are you doing now, Roy, in your life generally, that would make them, whoever they are, want to switch you off, whatever that means? What is the threat
because
you pose?
I wouldn't want to take the vaccine, to tell the truth.
Well, then you'll be fine, will you?
Well, no, I will not be fine, because at the end of the day, they want everybody to take the vaccine.
Yeah. Who's they, again?
It's the people who are in charge.
Who's in charge?
Got money.
Who's in charge?
People got money, billionaires, all those guys who want to control, who want to...
like Kim Kardashian? Kim Kardashian?
Kim Kardashian.
She's a billionaire.
You're joking now.
She is a billionaire. Well, her sister is, then.
It's these people who are on top.
Who? Give me some names. Roy.
Well, okay.
Go on.
You've got Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Right.
Why is he giving all his money away, then?
Oh, come on, man. It's just a trick he's giving. It's a solid trick.
Right. So the man who thinks the Queen is a lizard is telling the truth, and the man who has provided receipts of all of his work in Africa is tricking you.
Listen,
Roy, I'm going to meet you halfway. I'm going to meet you halfway, okay?
Can I just say this?
No. I'm going to meet you halfway. One of them is tricking you. But it's probably the bloke who told you the Queen is a lizard, as opposed to the bloke who has given away or is in the process of spending the bulk of his fortune on protecting the most vulnerable people on the planet from avoidable death. And I mean physically vulnerable. Chris is in York. Chris, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I'm another caller that's in the same boat as the previous ones that wouldn't really want to take the vaccine.
Why not, mate?
Well, it's just going off the wave of the way things have gone.
Go on.
Which is that, if you want to encourage a healthy population, probably the last thing you would do is to say, stay indoors, don't see your family, don't socialise, keep away from people. You'd probably say, get outdoors, get some exercise, see people that make you feel good. Now,
but hang on, mate, we're trying to stop people passing on a virus to each other, so telling people not to mingle.
But why lock up the people that...
Who's locked up, mate? Who's locked up? Chris, who's locked up?
Well, if you're saying that you can't go out...
Who said that? Who said you can't go out?
Well, if it's starting with just pubs, where's it going to end?
With pubs? In fact, I'll be very surprised if it even goes that far. So just to be clear, nobody's locked up and nobody's been told they can't go out, but that's what you're worried about.
I just think it's strange that the people that, have probably got, like you were criticising the guy before for his lack of evidence and statistics, but it's a 99 point...
Nobody said it is. No, it isn't, Chris, and I'll ask you where you got that figure from.
Well, that's online.
Yeah, but where online, Chris?
It's thereabouts, isn't it? It's thereabouts, 99%.
No, where did you get that figure from?
It's all over the place.
Yeah, but who provided it?
Well,
because I looked it up and it said it appears to have come from a dodgy Facebook post in America in April. I haven't mentioned any figures, Chris. I haven't mentioned any figures.
Well, then...
So where did you get your figure from? What sources are you relying on?
I mean, you can't just keep going down that route. I mean, basically...
So you say something, and you say it's true, and I say, where did you hear that? And you say you can't keep going down that route. Also, I mean, even if you were right, which you're not, what about long COVID? What about people whose entire lives have been turned upside down, despite having survived?
Well, I haven't met any of those people, and I think it's a shame, and I know it's it's clearly it's a real thing out there.
So you haven't met any of those people, but you believe blindly something that you've seen on the internet without knowing what the source is?
No, I know that, it's convenient that you're kind of encouraging...
Who is it convenient for? Why is it convenient? Because this is fascinating to me. Who is it convenient for?
Well, it's convenient for your viewpoint, isn't it?
My viewpoint that death is bad.
You've already made up your decision. That's what I find frustrating.
What do you mean I've made up my decision?
Well, why are you so convinced that if you don't want to take the vaccine, then you're an idiot?
I wouldn't necessarily call you an idiot until you'd establish the sources for your beliefs, which is why I keep saying, what are they? And you keep saying, stop going down that route all the time. At which point, I think idiot's a little bit strong, but certainly foolish would be my go-to point. But that word convenient fascinates me. What do you think the plan is, Chris? Why do you think people are punting a vaccine that you know is unnecessary and probably or possibly even dodgy?
I'm not sure. I think it's quite suspicious.
Yes, I know, but why do you think that? What do you think the plan is?
It's difficult, isn't it? I feel like there's a lot of freedom.
What did you find on the internet? What does it say on the internet? What's the plan?
Well, I
really don't know. I haven't got a clue, mate. What do you think the plan is? Why would they be doing this to us if it's dodgy? What's the plan? What's the end game?
Well, I don't know. When you listen to people like Elon Musk, that kind of opens your eyes.
But
a bit.
I'm listening to you.
Yeah, but I'm listening to the kind of algorithms of what's going on in the world right now. This is all...
Okay, can you point me towards the algorithms of what's going on in the world right now?
Well, people like Elon Musk that are kind of...
You keep saying people like Elon Musk. He's good with rockets and cars, but I wouldn't necessarily trust him with my children's health. So what is the plan?
Well, I don't think the plan is to improve our health and well-being.
So what is it then?
I'm not sure. It feels like it's
let's run through some possibilities. Number one.
Go on.
No, you need to provide these.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you mean? List what?
What's the plan? If it's not to improve public health, which you've concluded it isn't, what is it designed to do?
It's putting a lot of money in a lot of people's pockets, isn't it?
Well, the Oxford AstraZeneca project has actually pledged to prioritise the poorest parts of the world and remove profit from the equation. So it's definitely not that. What else might it be? We've heard all that before, haven't we? I've never heard that before, Chris, ever, actually. As far as I'm aware, it might even be unprecedented.
Someone's what? Donating some money, like a charity?
The AstraZeneca project is absolutely committed to get...
Where did that come from?
Well, I saw it on the internet. No, I didn't.
You saw it on the internet?
I was taking the mickey out of you then, mate. It's what they've actually said publicly. So I'll leave it with you, and we'll speak again in the future when you've worked out what the plan is that you're absolutely convinced is true, but you can't currently describe. Is that a fair description of your position?
Well, I'm just...
There's definitely a plan, but you've got no idea what it is. Ken's in Bromley. Ken, what happened?
Hi. Well, the reason why Europe is not budging is because no other European country has ever given its voters the option to leave the organisation. And if they compromise with us this time, unfortunately, other countries would seek to get the same sort of deal we get, and the EU would collapse.
That doesn't make sense, Ken.
It does.
No, it really doesn't.
It does. That's why.
Right.
They can't afford...
And did you not realise this before you voted to leave?
Well, I mean...
Because that's a pretty big omission on your part, isn't it? It's a very honest admission of you today. Because, I mean, if you're right, and you're not, but you didn't realise it, and you didn't, then, I mean, that's a lot of egg on your face.
Yeah, but you see, you have a go at people who are Brexiteers.
No, I'm being really nice to you, mate. I'm saying I salute your honesty. Here's a massive problem that you completely failed to see, and I'm giving you a get-out clause by explaining that you're wrong. Now say something rude. Now say something rude about me.
See if you recognise this quote. People who voted for Brexit were the types who would welcome child food poverty. Do you recognise that quote?
Some people who voted for Brexit would be the types who voted for child food poverty, Ken?
No, people who voted. That's exactly what you said.
Well, it doesn't have to be all, Ken.
outrageous
Okay, so
comment.
talk to me about Marcus Rashford.
Slanderous, outrageous comment. You are a snake in the grass. You should never, ever be allowed to say that. And I'm surprised nobody else has had the guts to phone you up to hold you to task.
Ken,
Will you apologise to
Ken.
Brexiteers for that?
No, Ken. Would you tell me...
Will you apologise
Ken, you
to
can't just keep
Brexiteers?
saying I'm not going to apologise to you, Ken, because Marcus Rashford proved my point perfectly. And I think if I said that, I said it before Marcus Rashford proved that Brexiters have got absolute cover. One of the Brexit-supporting MPs, mate, came out and said that they can't give hungry children, free school meals because they take the vouchers to crack dens and brothels.
I also voted for Rashford.
You can't vote for Rashford, you silly man, honestly. No, you can't vote for Marcus Rashford. That's a petition. Anyway, Ken, I'm very sorry that you understand so little. Let's go back. Because you've already said that, Ken. You've already said that, Ken. So why do you think it's...
would welcome child poverty?
Yes, and they do.
Another thing, do you ever speak to Majid Nawaz?
Not really, no.
Okay. When he was covering for you on holiday 2 months ago,
yes, Ken.
So many listeners said how refreshing it was that between 10 and 1, there was no longer incessant prejudiced criticism of the government.
Yes, I'm sure people like you, Ken, I'm not going to criticise a colleague, but here you are talking twaddle unchallenged. So enjoy it. So much balance. All right, let's have a bit more balance, Ken. Who just called who a snake in the grass?
You are a snake in the grass for saying that
just want to clarify that.
Type who would welcome child food poverty, and you should apologise to all listeners.
Oh, Ken, could you name a Remainer that was anti-Marcus Rashford for me before you go?
I'm not interested.
I know you're not interested. That's what you mean by guts. Could you name a Remainer that was anti-Marcus Rashford for me?
I quoted exactly what you said, and third time running, you're a snake in the grass for saying that.
Could you name a prominent Remainer that was anti-Marcus Rashford? Just before you go, Ken.
I'm not interested. I'm only interested.
Could you please try, Ken? Could you just name one Remainer who was anti-Marcus Rashford?
And next time you speak to Majid Nawaz, you find out just how he got so many listeners who were saying, for once, between 10 and 1, there was no longer prejudiced criticism of the government.
Ken, mate, you've insulted me, you've talked twaddle, and you've repeated yourself while refusing to answer any of my questions.
One more. Recognise exactly what I say.
Yes, Ken.
You should never say that Brexiteers would welcome child food poverty.
I love this, mate. So we look back.
Slanderous thing to say.
It's not, though, is it? Because they do.
It is a slanderous thing to say, and you should apologise to everybody right now.
Ken, here's the point of Brexit, right? And I appreciate you're not ready to grasp this yet.
You're diverting away from your statement.
No, I'm diverting you back to the programme you've rung into.
I can see you've probably got embarrassment written all over you. You should never have said that.
Well, that's why I've cut you off and faded you out while you were still talking, Ken, because you know, that is a mark of exactly how I... Oh, Ken, please don't hang up. Can we ring him back? That's just not fair. Can we just double check that he... So you look at 4 years of Brexit conversations. You're sitting there contemplating the carnage, the chaos and the catastrophe that you've inflicted upon our country, upon your own country. You're still complaining about the people who've predicted it and explained it at every single turn. And then having insulted them, you hang up while claiming that you're not being listened to or heeded. Can we just double check that he did hang up then and not actually get cut off accidentally or something like that? Andrew is in Chigwell. Andrew, come on, mate.
Hello, good morning, Chip.
Let's go.
I would love to lower the threshold on what how much the nurses or nursing profession have to pay to get into Europe, to get into our country to start working, and actively pursue non-EU citizens like the Filipinos, Nigerians, to come and fill in the spaces that we are left where there are no nurses, because we have been restricted on the nursing population.
Just start, Andrew. Just start again, and remember that we're looking at an EU regulation that we can get rid of, which is the regulation you're referring to.
Yes. The EU has restricted us on employing worldwide a larger availability of nursing.
How has it done that?
Of the world.
How has it done that?
I believe that there were quotas on who can work, who can come in and work into the EU through various registration.
But I thought we had uncontrolled immigration.
We had uncontrolled immigration from the EU.
But the European Union can't legislate for immigration into the UK from non-European Union countries, can it?
I know, but since we have left, we now can actively pursue workers from out.
No, I suppose I'm asking you why we couldn't do that before.
I believe that there were quotas of how many people.
Yes, but there weren't. You see, so I mean, R. Kelly believed he could fly. It doesn't mean he sprouted wings.
Of workers.
No, but we could have done.
How could we have done?
Well, the whole point about the immigration debate that a lot of people missed was that non-EU immigration into this country is higher than EU immigration. There was absolutely nothing to stop us getting rid of all restrictions. So you don't think we've got enough?
No, I'm saying that there should be an elimination.
Yes, but your fundamental premise is completely bonkers. There are no quotas.
There are no.
Who told you that there were? Just out of interest.
Then may I ask why?
No, I want you to tell me who told you there were quotas.
This was the impression that I got.
From who?
From
Mike
LBC.
Yarwood?
No, from LBC.
Oh, well, I can only apologise on behalf of whichever colleague it was that lied to you.
Well, I accept your apology with regards to that.
Well, it was a bit facetious, but you knew that. But here we are still. You're on the radio talking about stuff that's simply not true. Or at least you were on the radio when I said that.
Comedy time. Yes, it's comedy time. It's comedy time. Yes, it's comedy time. The gang's all here. The girls, the boys, and the dog.